We honor America with the national anthem being performed today by Joe Steele, owner of Carolina Furniture of Williamsburg. Joe and his wife Judy are both graduates of the college.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bomb bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
William and Mary alumnus Joe Steele with our national anthem, and we welcome you to Zabel Stadium in Williamsburg, Virginia for NCAA.com's coverage of the second round of the FCS football playoffs. I'm John Sadak alongside Derek Jones. Blue skies, and we have some chilly conditions right now, Derek, according to the National Weather Service, with winds that are gusting it up to 15 miles an hour. It feels like 36 degrees, and we certainly felt that down to the field today.
Well, certainly as you take a look at the conditions, and you mentioned that the wind starting to whip around a little bit, you get a little bit of a deceiving look at it from our vantage point when you go down on the field. As you said, certainly it feels a lot windier, so you wonder how the passing game and some of the extra elements will play into factor as it relates to the wind. One thing we do know about Georgia Southern, they will not rely a lot on the pass today, so certainly it may very well affect William and Mary a little bit more, at least in terms of throwing the football.
The Georgia Southern Eagles, the visiting team today, 8-4 record of the year. They're 4-2 in road action with 5-3 out of the Southern Conference, the most storied program in the history of FCS and formerly 1AA football. Georgia Southern as a program has won 6 national championships. That is the all-time record, and 39 wins against 10 losses. That is the most victories in the history of playoffs at this level. As far as the host tribe of William and Mary, an 8-3 record, co-champions out of the Colonial Athletic Association with a 6-2 record, shared that with the University of Delaware Fighting Blue Hens, who are in action today. And this tribe team last year went to the semifinals, won 11 games, lost by 1 point to the eventual national champion in Villanova, 14-13.
And obviously they're trying to get back to that point and beyond. And you know, when you look at some of the comments from earlier in the week from the quarterback of William and Mary, Mike Callahan, he talked about the fact that this team trying to get back to that point and beyond, trying to get to the national championship game and of course win it. And for them, the road starts today, and really we are going to see what should be an exceptional contest between two teams.
Now, William and Mary got a bye. It's an expanded FCS playoffs this year. It had been a field of 16. They've gone to a field of 20. They added automatic qualifiers for the champions out of the NEC and the Big South, and then 2 more at-large bids. 12 teams got a first-round bye, including the Tribe. William and Mary, in fact, the second seed, the highest seed that William and Mary has ever had in this tournament, while Georgia Southern got in with a lot of thanks to a signature victory that sparked what is a 4-game winning streak entering this contest. That was an overtime win against number 1 Appalachian State.
Yeah, and any time you get a win like that, it was a middling point of the year for them. And when you have a win like that against the then number 1 team in the country, it really can help with a springboard effect, if you will, and kind of push you forward towards the postseason. And that's exactly what happened. They won their last 3 games of the regular season, and of course into the playoffs, the win last week against South Carolina State as well. So when you take a look at what they've been able to do on top of the Appalachian State victory, it's been a process for them. It's a growing situation with the head coach Jeff Monken, and really a team that has progressed a great deal as this season has gone along.
And so that win was 41-16 against South Carolina State. One of the concerns very early in that game, when it was only a 9-0 contest, they lost their starting quarterback, and they run that triple option. It's been called a lot of things through the years. Back in the heyday when the program was first resurrected by Irk Russell, the legendary former coordinator at the University of Georgia, they called it the Ham Bone. They had Tracy Ham, who would go on to be a most outstanding player in the Canadian Football League, leading them to back-to-back national championships. These days, it's Jabo Shaw, a junior out of Flowery Branch, Georgia, a transfer out of Georgia Tech, took a tough hit to the chest and chin area that knocked him out of the game last week, but he's practiced ever since Monday.
And make no mistake about it, to run any option offense, and the triple option offense in particular, you have to be a tough quarterback, and we know Jabo Shaw is that. We watched the game last week, and you watch some of the hits that he took, even leading up to being knocked out of the game. You have to really want to stand in there and be able to sell the offense, because a lot of it's based on deception, and he is very good at that. And today, he is going to be tested against one of the better defenses in the country. But one thing we do know is that we're going to find out early, I think. William & Mary is going to test and see just how healthy he really is.
Indeed, the William & Mary defense, third best in the Colonial Athletic Association, but fifth in the country. It tells you a bit about the talent of the defenses in the mighty CAA, allowing just 15.4 points per game. The CAA has 4 teams playing today in the FCS playoffs. The Southern Conference has 3, and Derek, over the course of the last decade, these have been the 2 premier power conferences in FCS football.
Yes, I mean, we talked about Georgia Southern and the road they took to get here. Do not get it twisted up in any sense of the word. Like, you really have to take a look at the history of the program. They have been highly successful. This year, it was thought to be a little bit of a rebuilding year for the program in a sense. You have a new offense really being implemented by a first-year head coach. And when you take a look at that, a lot of times, a lot of the success, you're not really thinking about that, but once you get to the playoffs, all the history returns. And when you take a look at the resumes of both of these programs, 2 of the story programs, as you said, in FCS football.
And here we have the coin toss. Jabo Shaw making the call. Georgia Southern winning the toss. Georgia Southern has deferred, and William & Mary wants the ball. So Georgia Southern electing to defer, and William & Mary's offense will get a go at the start of this game. Don't discount the defense of Georgia Southern either. As much as the offense is a big part of what they do, as you mentioned, it's only the first year that they're running it yet again. And Mike Sewak, who is currently an assistant with legendary former Georgia Southern head coach Paul Johnson at Georgia Tech, he was the head coach at Georgia Southern. That was until 2005. A large lead lost in a first-round setback against Texas State. The administration decided to make a change. They brought in the then defensive coordinator from the University of Georgia, Brian Van Gorder, who scrapped many of the longtime traditions that Georgia Southern had, and with it, the triple option offense. And then he only lasted 1 year, just a 3-win season. Chris Hatcher comes in. He runs a spread offense out of the Division II power, Valdosta State. Didn't have tremendous success, was on the edge of the playoffs his first year. After 3 years, his contract was not extended. And then Jeff Monken, who had apprenticed under Paul Johnson for 13 seasons, first met Paul Johnson as a graduate assistant, his first college job at the University of Hawaii back in 1989. He returned to Statesboro, and with him came the triple option. But one of the biggest reasons that Georgia Southern is here today, Derek, is the defense. Beat App State in overtime and held that mighty offense to 14 points. This is one of the better offenses, one of the better defenses in the country.
Oh, absolutely. And in order to be able to use that offense, in a sense, you have to have a good defense to help kind of counterbalance and play off of that. And one of the key guys we're going to look at today is Brent Russell. Brent Russell in the middle. This is a guy who was a finalist for the Buck Buchanan Award. He's a name that if you are a fan of William & Mary, you hope you do not hear his name a great deal today.
And now while Georgia Southern, you know what they're going to do, they're going to run the ball. William & Mary, while playing in a very base pro set, not really changing things up dramatically week to week, will vary what it does, passing versus running, and that hasn't always necessarily been by choice. They have used so many different quarterbacks this year, Derek. 4 times in 4 different games, they've had to change quarterbacks during the course of the game, not due to ineffectiveness, but a multitude of injuries.
3 different starting quarterbacks throughout the season because of the injuries, as you alluded to, and as you said, also having to switch around a lot during the course of games, overall using 4 different quarterbacks. Mike Callahan, their starting quarterback today, this is a guy who we know he does a few things during the course of the week. We know he practices, we know he plays, but he also spends a lot of time with the trainer. He has suffered a couple of separated shoulder injuries this year, torn meniscus, so he has been banged up a great deal throughout the year, and he's quite a story himself, but you'd like to see him be able to stay healthy if you're William and Mary and stay out there and give the offense some consistency, because one thing you don't want to deal with in a playoff situation is any type of injury to your quarterback.
Yeah, and you wonder how the coaching will play into things. Jeff Monken has had great success as an assistant. This is his first year as a head coach, and some in Statesboro that are used to great success are perhaps a little bit surprised that the team turned things around the way they did. They were a 4-4 team, then they rip off 4 straight wins, including the playoffs. Monken himself said after the South Carolina State win, we're not the same football team we were 4 games ago. There was that much growth during the course of the year. They played 16 true freshmen. On the other side, you got Jimmy Laycock coaching his alma mater. He apprenticed under Marv Levy and Lou Holtz. Those were his head coaches when he was quarterbacking here at Williamsburg. He's in his 31st year with the Tribe. He's got savvy, he's got experience, and the coaching staff has 120 years of collective coaching time.
And it'll be very interesting to see how they deal with the triple option, because this is something they don't see a lot of. They haven't really seen the triple option since they played VMI back in 2008, and this year the only light comparison you can really make is James Madison.
And it looks like we will have Jonathan Grimes, number 34, alongside Ryan Woolfolk, number 28, deep to receive. Special teams, a big thing to look for today. Both teams excel in them. And Georgia Southern blessed with the best punt game in FCS football, an outstanding place-kicking game, a great coverage unit. This William and Mary team could really rip him back. Woolfolk averaging over 22 yards a return. Grimes over 25 yards a return. And there he is. So we are just about set to get underway. Georgia Southern has Billy Greer handle kickoffs. Adrian Mora is the place kicker. Large contingency of fans have made their way up from Statesboro. This stadium, which sits a shade over 12,000, about 80% full, as we are underway in the second round of the FCS playoffs. This will be Woolfolk from just inside his own 20-yard line. Doesn't get much in the way of a block. Gets out to about the 28. And it looks like that's where the Tribe offense will take the field. The Tribe 8-3 on the year, went 6-2, and the Colonial Athletic Association has won 11 straight home games this year, including just this season wins over the last 2 FCS champions in Villanova and Richmond, along with the co-champion of the league this year in the University of Delaware. It's Mike Callahan under center, tight end who just motioned. Bottom portion of your screen, Alex Gottlieb, one of the big targets. In motion, Chase Hill. They'll hand it off as they go to their star running back on the first play, and Jonathan Grimes, CAA Special Teams Player of the Year, a 2-time first-team All-League performer, tackled by Josh Rowe, the middle linebacker, a second-team All-SoCon performer.
And Grimes is clearly a key to this offense. We talked about the running game of Georgia Southern, but also behind Grimes, William and Mary is certainly a team that can be very effective on the ground as well.
Gain of 4. Grimes, program record, nearly 5,300 all-purpose yards in his career. DJ Mangus in motion, Georgia Southern showing blitz. Callahan, pressure coming, forced to throw, and it's dropped. Had Mangus wide open. DJ Mangus, the junior, was the scout team quarterback back in 2007. And it brings up a 3rd down and 6.
A little bit of a pass protection breakdown there for William and Mary. Josh Rowe getting in there for Georgia Southern. Also, we talked about Brent Russell, one of the guys there helping to lead the fray as well.
William and Mary on the year converts 3rd downs 42% of the time. That was 3rd best in the CAA. But Georgia Southern defensively 3rd best, and opponent 3rd down at 38%. 3rd down and 6. Callahan out of the gun. Pressure comes. He's flushed. Callahan going to take it. Callahan tripped up. Great pursuit by Roderick Tinsley, and he's one of the men that Jimmy Laycock is worried about. He said Tinsley and Russell, the two D tackles, could be game-changing players. You see a guy with that size, Derek, 6'3", 260, he can run.
And you saw exactly why Coach Laycock is concerned. You can't set back up there in the pocket, get a clean pocket, and set your feet and be able to get a comfortable look downfield. He had to move out pretty quickly and then go on the move.
David Miller comes on to punt, first team all-league performer. And a flag flies.
Snap, false start, offense, number 48, 5-yard penalty, fourth down.
Our referee is Vance Harris, false start the call. Our umpire is Robert Kinter. Head line judge Jeff Bauer. The line judge John Wilson, field judge Dan Carr, side judge Ron Reidinger, the back judge Frank Useglio. A bounding snap. Miller gets it off, and man, this is a beauty. Georgia Southern in zone 30 doesn't call the fair catch, and they can't bring him down. Up the sideline for a few yards, showing some immense toughness there. What a job on the return game by Darion Robinson, who averages 5 yards a return. Excellent punt, but what a job.
That is not a recommended thing to do there. A lot of times you'll see the punt returner call for a fair catch, but Robinson somehow able to keep his wits about him and stay on his feet despite that pressure coming on.
Well, we saw some oddities in special teams last week work in the favor of Georgia Southern. Twice, South Carolina State fumbled kickoff returns and got taken down in the end zone for a safety in one game. And now we see Jabo Shaw, number 14, 6 foot, 201-pound junior, the transfer to Georgia Tech. In his first year guiding this offense, he took a rough pop last week. They reverse on the pitch. First down and more. Only one safety. Able to slide past to get inside of the 20-yard line. And the option paying mass dividends on the first play from scrimmage as Robert Brown rips it into the red zone.
And John, we talked about the triple option not having a lot of experience against, and you see it right there. You have to be able to contain on the outside, and Brown got to the edge, got to the corner, and he busted it downfield for a huge gain.
There's B.W. Webb on the hit, who was a great shutdown corner in the pass game, but he admitted this week that he felt a little out of sorts against the team so run-heavy. They'll dive. Brown. And Brown just keeps churning those legs into a sea of Tribe defenders. Breaks the plane to the 10. And Georgia Southern on the move.
One of the big problems I think you have right away if you're William & Mary is you have to find a way to get comfortable against this defense this offense, the triple option, pretty quickly. Because if you're not careful, not only can they hurt you, as we saw on the run by Brown, they can obviously make some game-changing plays.
Second down and 3. Shaw under center. The dive again to Brown. And depending upon the spot, it looks like he's got it. Georgia Southern on the year, 256 rushing yards a game. Second best in the SoCon League, as it will be a first down. That has several teams running the option, but fourth best in the country. Passing, Derek, they ranked 115th. There are 117 FCS programs.
Last week against South Carolina State, they ran 82 plays, 77 of them were runs, just 5 passes.
And a big part of that, Shaw's injury, but now they have the savvy transfer out of Georgia Tech who ran the offense under its innovator, and Paul Johnson. Brown to the plane and in. Robert Brown plunges ahead as he'll go for a TD, his 6th of the year. And Georgia Southern's first drive knifes through the Tribe defense to make it 6-0.
Well, anytime you're on the road in a playoff game, you want to make sure you get a positive start out front, and that's what Georgia Southern got there. And not only that, not only they score, they hit the big play early on.
Out of the hold of punter Charlie Edwards, here's the place kicker, Adrian Mora, the junior, is perfect on point after, trying to make it 39 of 39, and this try is true. And Georgia Southern on its opening possession rips it right up the gut of William & Mary and forges ahead 7-0. And this is a great play from ahead offense, Derek. One of the best times of possession in all the land.
Well, if you're William & Mary, you want to try to make them play left-handed and at least make them put them in a position that they don't feel comfortable in, and that is not only being ahead, but a two-possession type game, because then it really forces the hand of the triple option. But conversely, if they are playing with the lead and playing ahead and playing their style of football, that's only going to help the confidence of these players.
I tell you, Robert Brown, one of those 16 true freshmen that have seen time this year, and it silences this Tribe crowd here at Zabel Stadium. He plays a lot bigger than his listed 5'11", buck 94. And now the onus is upon the feel-good story of Mike Callahan to help engineer field position and perhaps a return score. As yet again, they will have their kick returners, Woolfolk, 28, Jonathan Grimes, 34, the star running back and special teams performer. Grimes is on the far hash as Billy Greer will kick off. From Zabel Stadium at Williamsburg, Virginia, thank you for tuning in here to NCAA.com. The fans continue to file in. A chilly, blue-skied, sunny afternoon. It feels like 36, according to the Weather Service, with the winds today. Here's the kick. Sailing toward Grimes and the boundary, and that's got to be a procedure penalty. Now the wind, when we were down to the field, Eric, we felt it blowing near side to far side of the field. The flags show it going more left-right, but I think we're having a swirl effect right now.
No question. I think that kick got caught up a little bit in the wind, and that's not what you want to see if you're Coach Monken, because you kind of give the momentum a little bit back towards this offense of William & Mary. You give them good field position at the 40.
So here's Callahan, grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. His dad, Mike Sr., got him a quarterback throwing net at age 12. And Junior wouldn't come in until he made 3 straight from 10, 15, 20, and 30 yards. Never dealt with injury, always started from 3rd grade until college. And then never threw a collegiate pass until he got a start earlier this year. But here they'll hand it off. Grimes for about a yard.
And so far, the 2 running plays we've seen from William & Mary in the direction of Brent Russell, and not a huge coincidence that the running plays aren't going anywhere. So we'll see if they adjust here on the fly as this game goes along.
Brent Russell has a good chance to play on Sundays, and folks, he's only a redshirt sophomore. 6'2", 287, but oh so quick. Hand off again to Grimes. Grimes with a little bit more movement on this occasion. Roderick Tinsley, the D tackle, will greet him at around the 45-yard line. So that's a gain of 4. But now here is another 3rd down upcoming for the Tribe, with about 4 to go.
The opposition against Georgia Southern completing 3rd downs at a 38%, or excuse me, Georgia Southern's defense 38% clip on 3rd downs, 3rd in the SoCon.
Passing situation, they go to shotgun, 3rd down and 4. The Tribe's second possession, 4 down linemen. They show soft, so they'll play back. And the pass finds Gottlieb, the tight end, and he'll be short and stuck. A rocket hit delivered by E.J. Webb. And actually, he's going to get a pretty generous spot here. It's going to be right around the marker. But Gottlieb is clearly rattled. First team All-CAA performer, second on the team, Derek, in receptions. They're going to give him the 1st down, but Gottlieb is now on his back.
Wow, John, I thought he ran right short of the sticks. That looked like when he originally caught the football that he did not have forward progress at all for the 1st down, but he gets it. Unfortunately, though, he's down on the ground right at midfield.
Gottlieb now helped to his feet by the trainers. Bell rung, the junior out of Delray Beach, Florida. He's not a small guy. He's 6'4", 255. In fact, he was primarily a blocking tight end until this year. Now he's their 2nd main target.
And anytime you have the flux at the quarterback position that William & Mary has gone through this season, having a good tight end, a security blanket, so to speak, can be very helpful to a quarterback.
His backup, Nolan Carney, is now on the bottom portion of your screen in that tight end role. They'll motion DJ Mangus. 1st down and 10 at midfield for Callahan and company. One blitzer. Long pass for the new tight end. He's held. The fans want a flag, and a late one flies. Little tug on the jersey from Josh Rowe, the middle linebacker, in coverage.
That was the right call there. Rowe clearly had him as he was heading down the near sideline, and that's an easy call for the officials.
Pass interference. Defense, number 4. 15-yard penalty. First down.
And that the call from our referee, Vance Harris. Indeed, the second team all-conference linebacker. His high school coach called him the best linebacker that he coached in 35 years. But matched up with the reserve tight end. A reserve tight end who, by the way, Derek, that's only his 7th catch all season.
So you can see he's not a guy they go to a lot in the passing game. Break here for William & Mary.
From the 35 on a first down. Hand off Grimes. And what team pursuit by these Eagles. And there was Josh Rowe alongside Darius Eubanks, who plays that bandit position, the hybrid safety linebacker.
Russell in there as well. And again, the left side runs early on here, a real struggle for William & Mary.
And it seems like they're still trying to attack against Russell. Russell grew up in Comer, Georgia. It's a town of 1,053 people. Second down at 11, loss of 1 on that play. Callahan under center. Little misdirection, they dive. Grimes, first down. Breaks it out. One man escorting him sideline as he'll be taken out of bounds by Laron Scott. And a little taste of Georgia Southern medicine there as they fake going wide and give it on the dive.
Going right up the middle this time, and nice change of direction there by Grimes to cut it to the outside and get near the sideline and almost getting into the end zone.
Jonathan Grimes, very decorated player, was a candidate for the Walter Payton Award out of Palmyra, New Jersey, and Paul VI High School. Now it's first down and goal from the 7 for the Tribe of William & Mary. They fake the pitch, flag comes, and they blow it dead.
Flag down.
Grimes is the all-time leader in all-purpose yardage for the Tribe.
Encroachment. Number 15 in the offense. 5-yard penalty. Down.
It goes on the wide receiver, Chase Hill. You know, it's odd to see penalties against William & Mary, Derek. This is the least penalized team out of the CAA, just 35 yards a game. But contrast that their opponents in league, oddly, had more penalty yards called against them than the opponents of any CAA team at over 70 a game.
And that can make a critical difference in a game like this, and now we have another penalty.
Another flag coming out. Callahan seems upset. The second round playoff contest.
Illegal substitution. Both players on the field. On the offense. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Jimmy Laycock, the veteran head coach, unhappy. They had too many men on the field. Illegal substitution called as Ryan Moody, the best deep threat, comes off.
On the 17-yard line.
Well, Chase Hill matched up near side, one-on-one with Georgia Southern's best corner in Laron Scott. First down at 17 as a result of the penalties. They hand it off to the backup running back, Cortland Mariner, and he'll get to around the 11-yard line, so a gain of about 6. Mariner, the second leading rusher, number 25.
10 carries, 60 yards, and 2 touchdowns in his last game, and you can see he has a spurtability, as they would say. He can find the hole pretty quickly and hit it.
That was a win against Richmond. A decisive victory for this Tribe team against a Spider club that's William & Mary's biggest rival, a national champion only a few years ago when Mike London, now the head coach at UVA, was leading the Spiders. They'll go to Mariner again. Right side, a little hesitation. That gives Georgia Southern time to close out. Derek Hayden, the junior out of Atlanta, able to make the hit.
And John, you see what a difference those two penalties have made here. Instead of a first and goal from the 7, you have a first and goal from the 17, and that makes it a little bit harder to get into your offense in this situation.
So now it is a third down and goal from the 7. Callahan from the gun, Mariner to his right. Hill once again one-on-one, bottom portion of the screen. A motion of Angus. Callahan locked in left side, has to step up. He'll be taken down. The Southern pressure gets to him. Josh Rowe, the middle linebacker, able to rip right through.
The defensive calls so far, I think, from Georgia Southern have been very aggressive, and also a block there, missed there by Mariner, and that you can't have those type of things, and they're taking advantage of that. When you come into the game as a running back, one of your other primary concepts, obviously besides running the football and also pass catching, is blocking, and he didn't pick up his block there.
This will be a 32-yard field goal try for the redshirt freshman who hails from Williamsburg, Drake Kuhn. He's 10 of 15 this year. The kick is on the way. It's got a ton of leg, and it's good. So William & Mary has to settle for 3 when it had first and goal from the 7, as the 32-yard field goal makes it 7-3, 6:49 to go here in the first quarter.
We've seen 2 things uncharacteristic so far of William & Mary. The penalties and also the big plays, at least the big play allowed to Brown early on in the first drive for Georgia Southern.
And that's exactly what Georgia Southern wants to be able to do, is break out those big plays. Defensive coordinator for William & Mary, Bob Shoup, he's been around quite a bit. He was the DC at Yale, at Villanova. He was a DB coach at Boston College, 99 to 02, was a head coach at Columbia. His brother John is currently the defensive coordinator at North Carolina. He has seen the option through the years. He's seen it against Navy. He has seen it against Georgia Southern. And he said the big thing is you can't let them get the big play. He said if and when they pass, they're not going to be very efficient, but that deception, the misdirection, makes for the big play. Georgia Southern has one. William & Mary has some penalties. GSU has the lead.
And that run by the run by Georgia Southern on the initial drive, that's the 39th play this season of at least 20 yards and the 21st on the ground. So they are a big threat running the football, obviously, and being able to take it that 20 and plus.
So here is Drake Kuhn on the heels of the made field goal. Kicking off. Georgia Southern from the 15. On the hash. And the hit. Able to wrap up and bring down LaRon Scott, the outstanding kick returner and secondary performer. As William & Mary, Rec Green, able to bring him down.
First in the SoCon in return yards for kick returns. Very effective performer back there. Certainly another guy to watch in the special teams department today.
Ron Scott, a man who averages 27 yards of return. That's 11th best in the country. And now here comes that triple option offense. Yet again for GSU. This is a unit that returned 7 offensive starters. But remember, folks, they were running a pass-heavy spread offense for the last 3 years. The year before that, it was more of a pro-style offense. The program has not run the option since 05. There are no holdovers from that era. Here's Jabo Shaw, one of the few who has run this offense. That was at Georgia Tech. And William & Mary snips it out. A sea of green and gold, able to overwhelm the transfer QB. Marcus Hyde, one of the ends in there.
And I think if you're William & Mary, that's one of your best hopes. You want to make sure you force their hand as far as declaring what they're going to do, I think, in those type situations. And there, he just clearly had to turn right back upfield. Nowhere to go with it.
That'll be a loss of 1. Georgia Southern was able to score on its only other possession so far. Jabo Shaw from under center. William & Mary stacking the box. No motion. Shaw trying to keep and plunge ahead. Gets a minimal gain. And he seems frustrated thereafter.
And you can see on that particular run right there, the fake inside. Shaw tries to keep it himself, move to the outside. Couldn't really keep his footing about himself and has to fall to the ground.
So the crowd grows loud behind William & Mary's defense. The Tribe only allowed opponents to convert 31.5% of its third downs. Third best in the CAA. But Georgia Southern gets it 43% of the time offensively. Fourth best in the mighty SoCon. This is the loudest Zabel Stadium has been on the day. The blitz comes. Flag flies. And a prone Jabo Shaw was about to get lit up. But the flag will blow play dead.
Snap. Encroachment. Offense at number 19. Lined up in the neutral zone. 5-yard penalty. Third down.
Goes on the slot back, J.J. Wilcox, who first-year head coach Jeff Monken said is perhaps their biggest playmaker. Great hands. The man who wanted to stay at wide receiver out of Cairo, Georgia. They convinced him to play in the slot at the A-back position, and he's been a big play threat, catching and running. 3rd and 12, they need a big play here. Shaw flushed on the run. Tip ball. That's live. And it's incomplete. William & Mary thought it was able to deflect and bring it in. But I think this is a good call, Derek. It did look like the ball popped free out of the outside linebacker, Evan Frank's clutches.
Looked like that nose of the football from the naked eye looked like at least hit the ground, and one of the officials there on the spot to make the calls. We'll get a look at it here momentarily.
Well, what pressure coming on that backside. Great tip ball. Tough to see there, but when we saw it live, it didn't look like he cleanly brought it in. So it's punt time for Charlie Edwards. Fair catch called for by William and Mary. Speed W. Webb brings it in just inside of his own 25.
So we hit an area of the game for Georgia Southern where they don't want to be in the spot of being in a 3rd and long, and because of the penalty again, you see something there where that's a passing down, and again, that is not their forte. They come in averaging about 10 pass attempts per game, so that's not the spot they want to be in.
First down and 10 for the Tribe from Williamsburg, Virginia, Zabel Stadium. 4:51 remaining, opening quarter. Second round of the FCS playoffs here on NCAA.com. Mike Callahan, the 5th-year senior out of Mountville, Pennsylvania. No motion, Chase Hill. Fake the handoff. Plenty of time. Deep ball. A little too tall for Chase Hill, the 3rd-team All-CAA performer and the best scoring threat. Led the conference with 8 touchdown receptions on the year.
That's the best amount of time, the most amount of time Callahan's had back in the pocket so far here today to throw the football. Just missed it.
Now second down and 10. That's the versatile nature of this William & Mary offense. They show that play fake on a first down. They had a chance to make the play. Callahan, normally so efficient. It's the backup tight end, Carney, still in there. Handoff Grimes, left side, and ooh, what a lick. Georgia Southern able to come in and deliver the pop. Derek Hayden, the strong safety. We'll get another look here. And Hayden delivering the blow. Hayden, a very talented writer. He has not only blogged for his school's athletics website, but also for southernpigskin.com.
A very versatile student athlete.
Third down and 6. Ball just over the 28. Callahan out of the gun, a long cadence. Here comes the pressure. Callahan slips through the hit of Russell, steps up. He's got some blocks. He's got a first down and more. Callahan won't go down. Hayden will trip him up at the Georgia Southern 46-yard line. Derek, this is a guy who blew out his ACL last year when he had a chance to be the primary backup. He tore his meniscus this year. He suffered 2 separated shoulders, and he plunges ahead first.
Not shy about running the football at all, and in that spot his team needed it, and he gets a first down inside of Georgia Southern territory.
Callahan, by the way, will get his master's degree in accounting come spring. He never threw a pass until this, his 5th year on campus. They show an extra backer on the bottom portion of the screen to Georgia Southern. Callahan doesn't like the defensive alignment. Calls timeout right as the play clock was about to hit 0.
You want to save the penalty, but you don't want to be caught in that spot where the clock's running down and you have to burn a timeout there. So, and the coach obviously a little frustrated on the sideline. Coach Laycock, very frustrated. As you can see, kind of pumping his fist in a little bit of anger as a result of them having used that timeout there as the play clock was running down.
Derek, starting tight end and 1st-team All-League performer Alex Gottlieb still stands on the sidelines. Pads and jersey on, but helmet removed. And I don't believe he has returned to play since that devastating hit when he picked up that first down at the Tribe's first possession.
And that could be a big loss for them if he's not able to return to this game. He's one of their top receivers. And as we mentioned, when you get into the red zone, a tight end is a guy you like to go to. In this type of game where he may not have a lot of time, speaking of Callahan, to throw the football, having a tight end you can go quick to certainly is a big help.
And so William & Mary out of its called timeout. First down and 10 at the Georgia Southern 46. 7-3. Georgia Southern has not trailed. Jumped out to a 7-0 lead. William & Mary on his last possession had a 1st and goal from the 7. Penalties backed it up to the 17. And eventually it settled for a field goal of 32 yards. Head coach Jimmy Laycock, class of 70 here at William & Mary. 208 wins, 144 losses, 2 ties. It's the 6th most wins among active coaches. And his years at one school, at the current school, 4th in all of Division I. Joe Paterno at Penn State leads the way with his 45 years of service. The motion of the fullback Hobson, play fake Callahan, trying to get on the run. And he finds his man, looking for Ryan Moody. And Moody taken out of play at around the 41-yard line. Moody, whose Uncle Keith is a basketball star at Nebraska, started the year as a reserve, and then due to injury in the receiving ranks, he's now William & Mary's best deep threat.
And John, one thing about that play there, if you're Georgia Southern, you have to worry about wrapping up first instead of delivering the big blow there. Moody was able to stay on his feet in part because of an inability to wrap up.
2nd down and 5 at the 41. Blitz shown up the middle. Callahan recognizes, barks out a few extra commands. Callahan with time. Deep ball left side, looking again for Moody. Nearly makes the one-handed catch. He got the step on the cover corner. LaRon Scott had just about cradled that with the left hand.
He accelerated late on the play, able to get past Scott, and almost came up with a spectacular one-hand grab.
What a near big play for Moody, the 5'11", 171 sophomore out of Ashburn, Virginia. His quarterback, Mike Callahan, walked out of the scout team in 2006. Here he is starting as a 5th-year senior, but out of the gun, he needs a conversion on 3rd and 5. They show pressure. Georgia Southern will bring the blitz. Grimes right through that pressure. 1st down. And Georgia Southern again there, Derek, trying to knock the ball loose rather than wrap up for the hit. And that seems to cost Carlos Cave, who might have had a chance to bring him down near the marker.
To me, you have to have somebody wrap up first, and then you worry about stripping later on. If you try to tackle the football first, you're going to allow extra yards and not get Grimes down. And this is not the back to miss tackles with.
He is one of a program record-tying 15 all-conference players for William & Mary out of what has been the most powerful, the deepest conference in FCS football. Handoff here, they go to Mariner. Nice stutter step, change fields, and he makes something out of very little. Gets a gain of about 5 yards.
Looked like you hit the old juke button there on Madden a couple of times, shifting from left to right and trying to change direction and move upfield.
2nd down at the 29.
Roderick Tinsley walking a tad gingerly after he gave help on the play. He's one of those star D tackles. You appreciate that William & Mary early, Derek, has tried to attack those D tackles, but you would assume as the game wears on, they're going to start to go to the edge more and more.
I would think so. You're not going to make a living running in between or right at those tackles. It's going to be tough to do.
Callahan, hard pump. Here's Russell in pursuit, but he'll find his target for a minimal gain.
And by and large, you'd have to say here early on, when you look at the battle of the offensive line of William & Mary versus the defensive line of Georgia Southern, you'd have to like the job that Georgia Southern has done on the defensive front. They are forcing Callahan to move around. They have not given him a lot of time. We've only seen a couple of plays where he's really been able to set up and get comfortable in the pocket.
Stevenson with the hit there on the safety valve of Mariner. 3rd down and 5. Another big blitz shown. Long snap count from Callahan. Here comes the pressure. Dump off. Near the marker will depend upon the spot. And the ball pops free late. But they'll say forward progress was stopped, and they're going to give him some generous position yet again. DJ Mangas, much like that Alex Gottlieb catch early, is rattled after making 1st down, quote unquote.
Yeah, they've gotten a couple of early breaks here from the officials, but nonetheless, hey, it's a 1st down. They'll move on to the next series here as he does appear to be injured.
So DJ Mangas, scout team QB back in 2007. His dad knows a thing or two about taking some hits. His father, Robert, was a fullback during his days at Kentucky. But that is another William & Mary player rattled by contact, and it brings silence yet again to Zabel Stadium. 7-3, Georgia Southern with the lead. 1:15 remaining. Opening quarter as clouds begin to creep in and the sunshine starts to dissipate. with that, the temperatures will certainly drop all the more. They're actually expecting some flurries, some snow to hit this area around 5, 6 o'clock. William & Mary ranked number 4 in both of the major polls, but the 2 seed in this tournament. Has been to the semifinals last year and in 2004. Both times lost to the eventual national champion, and both times it was a fellow conference member, James Madison in 04. Villanova last year. Mangus is able to walk off with a limp, but otherwise under his own power.
So that's already 2 receivers banged up here today for William & Mary.
So William & Mary without one of its 3 rotating quarterbacks as well. Michael Paulus, brother Greg Paulus, not in uniform today. He's been banged up. Callahan, Grimes, Tinsley on the hit. Still, that'll get to about the 18. It's a gain of 4.
And Grimes again, they're going towards that left side of the line. Looked like he was trying to cut it back in there. He saw a hole there. But again, the Georgia Southern defensive front waiting. And as we said earlier, they've been very aggressive in their defensive calls here early on, really trying to create some pressure on this offense.
That's what defensive coordinator Brent Pry has done to this defense. He met them in a very invigorated fashion. 2nd and 6. Pressure backside. Callahan feels it, dumps it off. That's a wise move there. He was about to get blown up by Tarico Agnew, the end, coming from the backside. But when Pry, keep in mind this is a new coaching regime all in its first season. When he first met with this team before the year, he stood in front of them and read off statistics. He said, I heard you all thought you were a good defense last year. 27.5 points a game, 140 rushing yards a game, 215 passing yards a game. 3 times gave up 40 or more points. That's not a good defense. But trust me, come the end of camp this year, we will be a good defense. They're the 11th best scoring defense in the country.
And you can see they play with a little swagger and attitude.
3rd and 6, Callahan going end zone, knocked down. Looking for the leap of Chase Hill. And Southern from behind, able to bat it away.
So that's the 2nd time that Callahan has missed on a connection to Chase Hill. The first time he was wide open here on the near side of the field, but that time would have set him up with a goal-to-go situation.
It's now on 4th down and 6. It's going to be another field goal try for Drake Kuhn. He was good on 32 first time around. This one will be from a shade over 35 yards away. The kick is on the way, and the 35-yarder of Kuhn is true. So he's 2 for 2 on field goals, and with 5 seconds remaining in the opening quarter, it's a 1-point game, Derek. 7-6 Georgia Southern.
Well, this is a game you wondered how it was going to turn out with an offensive setup for Georgia Southern that William & Mary really hasn't seen a lot of. But on the flip side of that, offensively for William & Mary, they've had some opportunities, but they have not been able to cash in. And again, one of the big things in this contest could very well be how you play in the red zone and how you approach those goal-to-go situations. We saw early on, because of a couple of penalties, they had to settle for an early field goal. They come back, get another field goal here, and trim the deficit to a point at 7-6.
DJ Mangus, by the way, helmet off, is on the table as they are examining what appears to be lower extremity left side. He has his back to us. We cannot see exactly if it's the knee or the foot ankle area.
At the half, Delaware 21, Lehigh 13.
But it is a scoring drive nonetheless for a banged-up William & Mary team. And Jimmy Laycock told me during the week with a laugh, he said, there were times this year I just could not believe what I was seeing. Last year when William & Mary won 11 games, 2 defensive linemen would go on to get drafted in the NFL. They had minimal injury concerns, and this year it's been a roller coaster, he said, with all the injuries and all the other issues, as we see Mangus on the sideline.
And it's a credit to Coach Laycock that he's been able to get them into this position. Again, as you said, highest seed ever with the 2 seed in postseason play.
Scott from his 20, he's going to have a chance to break one here. Scott slips out of an ankle tackle, gets nearly to midfield. What a job by LaRon Scott. That's a return of about 21 yards, and Georgia Southern has a very short field, leading by a point.
First down and 10.
And as we get ready to go towards the second quarter here, if you're Georgia Southern, you've had the ball for 7 of 30 plays in this game. You've held the ball for just a little over 3.5 minutes, but yet you have a 7-6 lead as we go towards the second quarter.
This Georgia Southern team, time of possession, a big key. Nearly 34 minutes time of possession on average. That was first in the SoCon by a lot. And you have to think that it's going to wear on the team more and more. While, yes, it might get a little easier, might feel more natural to defend it as the game wears on. Bottom line, there's going to be a toll of the physicality pounding upon you.
Oh, no question about it. You're going to have different guys attacking you as this game wears on, especially when we hit towards, midway third quarter. Once we get past halftime, heading into the third quarter, midway third quarter into the fourth, where it really could be taxing against William & Mary, and that's where tackling comes into play, because then you see guys not being able to wrap up quite as effectively as they were maybe earlier on in the game. So it almost becomes a not only a physical challenge but a mental challenge as well going up against this offense.
CBS Sports presents.
Large number of fans made the journey from Statesboro, where Georgia Southern has been oh so good. In fact, these two teams, William & Mary and Georgia Southern, have met just once before. That was back in 1997. It came down to a one-point final. That was down in Statesboro at the prettiest little stadium in America, Allen E. Paulson Stadium, as William & Mary got the win. From that point forward, Derek, Georgia Southern won over 30 consecutive home games and set a record that still stands today for consecutive home wins, winning 2 national championships in that time.
Well, you have to be able to defend your home field if you want to be a successful program, and that, as you can see, that statistic certainly is a great testament to that program, but also to the fans as well, because that is a huge part of the environment.
William & Mary is on its longest home win streak since 95-97, has won 11 straight here at Zabel Stadium. Georgia Southern's last road playoff win was in 2000 against Delaware. Jabo Shaw given the pitch outside. The slot back J.J. Wilcox. And already Georgia Southern, with the second quarter underway, is in William & Mary territory at the Tribe 48-yard line.
Even though William & Mary did a decent job, I thought, of containment, he's still able to get 6 yards out of that run. He got to the outside, but too much pursuit there from William & Mary forced him to cut it back to the inside.
Second down and 4. Tribe showing blitz pressure on the edge, so Southern says right up the middle, and the Tribe still equal to the task, able to plow down Robert Brown.
Very important for the defenders of William & Mary to keep their eye on that particular play, because what we've seen in this game, at least going back to the first quarter, they will on occasion fake that dive to the inside and then have Shaw busted out outside of the tackle area. So that will be one thing to watch here, and certainly a running distance here on a 3rd and 2.
Ryan Jean-Pierre on that hit, but yet again a generous spot of forward progress. A 3rd and very short 2 for the Georgia Southern Eagles. Shaw will keep and get it. Quarterback able to get his way to the Tribe 39-yard line, so a pickup of 7 and another Georgia Southern first down.
And John, those are the situations, if you're William & Mary, you want to try to stay out of short yardage situations against a triple option. Very difficult to stop them from getting a first down.
That's why Georgia Southern goes for it so often on 4th down. Something we haven't seen so far today. But now inside of the 40. Early stage second quarter from Zabel Stadium in Williamsburg, Virginia. We thank you for tuning in to NCAA.com. John Sadak alongside Derek Jones. A motion. Right up the middle, it's Brown, able to go right side. Get an escort of green and gold. Out of bounds to the 26-yard line. It's a gain of 13 yards from the true freshman.
And so far, Georgia Southern, they're playing their game. Jabo Shaw has attempted 1 pass so far through the first quarter and change. So this is a running offense as we expected, and they haven't, their hand hasn't been forced at least to play it any different.
Georgia Southern now at 1st down and 10. Methodically riding that right hash under the guile of the first-year transfer in Shaw. Shaw getting a call sideline, seems to be changing the play. A brief examination of his armband. Now a long cadence. Play clock at 1. They get it off. Shaw, the late pitch. Finds his man, Robinson. And Robinson able to break the marker and get another Georgia Southern first down. That's a gain of 12 for Darian Robinson, the sophomore out of Athens.
And again, Robinson able to turn the corner that time. And as you take a look at the replay here, they go with the fake inside, the pitch outside to Robinson, and just a little bit of deception there that creates the room to turn it upfield for these running lanes and a first down.
He's a great athlete, runs a 4.40, and he comes from an athletic family. His older brother, Dunta, is a D-back with the Houston Texans. 1st and 10 from the 13. Shaw, the dive to Brown. And William and Mary getting 3 defenders to pounce upon the ball carrier. George Beerhalter, the freshman out of Pittsburgh, one of 2 true freshmen to see time for William and Mary this year in there on the stop.
32 touchdowns this season for Georgia Southern in red zone opportunities. So they are efficient when they have their opportunities. So it is going to be a chore here for William and Mary to try to slow them down. But in return, we saw William and Mary's offense in this spot unable to cash in earlier on in the first quarter. Let's see what Georgia Southern comes up with here.
The Eagles on a 2nd and 8 from the 11. They were second in the SoCon in red zone efficiency. Flag flies, Shaw on the keep. This might be coming back. So he gets to the 5. Georgia Southern converted 89% of the time in the red zone. The William and Mary defense allows just 69% success. Second best in the CAA.
Illegal shift. 2 players in motion at the snap.
And it looked like there was some confusion there.
Second down.
Looked like some confusion there on behalf of Georgia Southern's offense. Behind Shaw, 2 backs were basically almost crisscrossing behind him, and that drew the penalty.
So 2 players in motion. Remember, the Tribe had a first down and goal from the 7. Got backed up as a result of consecutive penalties. Had to settle for a field goal. Here, Georgia Southern now faced with a 2nd and 13 from the 16. The Tribe crowd glows loud. Motion, Brown up the middle. And Brown tripped up. Gets to around the 6. That'll be a gain of about 10.
The ball goes to
And now it'll be a 3rd down and very reasonable.
And John, that's a big play, because if you can keep them held back there in that spot, maybe you force their hand to put them in a spot where they may have to throw the football. But instead, this is a running down and distance situation here, a 3rd and 4.
And this could also be, even though they have a very talented kicker, a 4-down territory.
Oh, absolutely.
How often Southern goes for it on paper, considering that they were an at-large team, had to play first round. They're the underdog on the road. Shaw calls for a man in motion. He's going to keep, and Shaw has the first. And that is the worst thing that could happen for the Tribe outside of a clean score, because now Georgia Southern has more time to tick, tick, tick the clock and grind away against this Tribe defense with a fresh set of downs.
And a goal to go from the 1. It's going to be a very tricky spot here for this Tribe D.
Shaw under center. He has 13 of his team's 34 rushing TDs this year. On this attempt, we await a signal. He looks short. He is short.
John, he may have slipped coming out of the snap there. As he got the snap, looked like he slipped up just a little bit, lost his footing, and that not able to get that momentum to get over the top and pass the goal line.
Georgia Southern gets another crack, 2nd and goal from the 1. And you've got to think Shaw or Brown. Brown is right behind Jabo Shaw. 7 on the play clock, Shaw on the keep, and Shaw is in. His 14th rushing touchdown of the year, and Georgia Southern's 2nd score on this day. It's now a clean touchdown advantage with an extra point pending and 9:27 to go in the 2nd quarter.
One thing you notice, John, we haven't mentioned a lot about his injuries so far in this game. He has been pretty effective. We saw him on the field in pregame. Looks strong, has looked strong so far.
Great job by his center, Brandavius Mann. And the left guard, the Western Michigan transfer, Ryan Byrne. Now the extra point for the man who's been perfect, and he remains so. Adrian Mora now 40 for 40 on extra point tries this year. And the visiting underdog Georgia Southern Eagles lead 14-6. Georgia Southern, remember, had a great short field. It wasn't a very good kick by William & Mary, and then a very solid return job by LaRon Scott set up the short field. And we can hear from above the William & Mary sideline the rally cry of "Let's go." But this Tribe team that hasn't played in a couple of weeks, Jimmy Laycock said he was worried about momentum. He thought his team was playing its best football of the year on the heels of that Richmond blowout.
And that's a good point, because you don't want to lose that momentum of playing well for a few weeks in a row and then taking the time off because of the bye. And it's one of those things where you take a look at everything coming into this. Sure, your guys are rested, but there's a certain rhythm to the game, and on a week in and week out basis, you get into that. And because of this, unfortunately for them, they're in a spot where they're a little bit out of rhythm, out of sync here early on.
Some scores out of town. Appalachian State leading Western Illinois 28-7. As that game is about to get underway second half, App State outscoring Western Illinois 21-0 in the second quarter alone. Wofford, Jacksonville State, whose winner will face the winner of this contest. Wofford leading Jacksonville State 10-3 as they're about to start the second stanza. New Hampshire, two-score advantage on Bethune-Cookman, 14-0 early second quarter. Delaware leading Lehigh 21-13. Second half about to get underway. And North Dakota State, Montana State just underway. That game is scoreless. Still to come at 3:30 Eastern. Villanova will visit Stephen F. Austin. And at 4:05 Eastern, it's Southeastern Missouri State at Eastern Washington on the red turf. So here come the Georgia Southern Eagles, ready to kick away. 14-6. GSU has the lead. Billy Greer ready to kick for the Eagles. Grimes and Woolfolk deep to receive. Greer's kick has some good leg. This will be Grimes, the CAA Special Teams Player of the Year from his own 6. Riding the hash, a couple of blocks. He'll work his way to around the 24-yard line. So a solid return. And William & Mary's offense goes back out. But the Tribe has seen a couple of players get banged up today. And DJ Mangus, one of the top targets on this team, has an ice pack wrapped around his left ankle. His cleat is off, his helmet's off. Does not look like he's returning. And we have not seen the first team All-League tight end Alex Gottlieb, who is still standing on the sidelines, helmet off. Hasn't returned since a vicious hit when he converted a first down of the Tribe's first possession. Here a handoff, not much doing. Terrence Riggins challenged right at the line of scrimmage, perhaps lost half a yard.
Looked like he just ran into a brick wall there. The front, once again, of Georgia Southern, very stout in stopping the run game.
Georgia Southern has run the ball 16 times out of 17 plays for 123 yards. William & Mary, 4 of 9 passing for 16 yards, 15 rushes for 87. Second and 10.5. They fake the handoff, and Callahan gets tripped up on the fake to Terrence Riggins. It looked like he tripped on the cleat of his teammate. And that's going to be a major loss of yardage back to the 18, loss of 7.
And that's some bad luck right there, because now you put yourself in a really unfortunate situation. It's a 3rd and long. You have to get to the 35 for a first down.
There you see it. Tripped up in the backfield. 3rd down at 17. And momentum spiraling against the host Tribe, as this stadium that sits a shade over 12,000 is now as quiet as it has been all day. The motion of fullback Hobson. They fake the handoff. Callahan going corner. Pressured and blown up was the intended target, the fullback Hobson, who released late. First team All-League performer, great blocker, but this Georgia Southern defense is delivering some killer blows, Derek.
Darius Eubanks, hello, with the big-time hit on the near side of the field. Just did not see that one coming, and Eubanks just absolutely plowed through him.
There's David Miller to punt. Eubanks, the man who forced a critical fumble against App State in overtime in that signature win that sparked Georgia Southern's current 4-game win streak. Fair catch back at the 40.
Robinson makes the fair catch at the 39.
Brought in there by Robinson.
For the Eagles.
So here comes the GSU offense with yet again, Derek, some great field position right off the 40-yard line.
John, I said it before. I mean, right now they're playing their type of football. And William and Mary has to find a way to change the direction of that situation, because right now they're getting good field position. They're playing well on defense. And they are not letting any aspect of William and Mary get comfortable. We haven't really seen a lot of comfort out of the offense. And defensively, the same thing as well. The defense has made a play here or there, but not consistently.
Well, we were on the pregame field, and we saw an incredibly spirited, fired up, invigorated Georgia Southern team that had to journey all the way up from Statesboro just yesterday morning. While the Tribe, calm, confident, Brown on the dive here, gets a gain of about 3. The Tribe was not nearly as intense, it appeared. And we have a banged-up Tribe player.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to get a gauge on what a team's vibe is if they're not as excited as another team. But you're absolutely right. Just a different feel from going to each side of the field and getting an idea of what the teams are thinking. Not a lot of hooting and hollering on the side of William and Mary, but Georgia Southern obviously coming in as the underdog, a visitor's situation for them, and they obviously feel like they have something to prove here today.
This is yet another banged-up player for the Tribe that has endured so many injuries on the year, and already 2 primary offensive players have hit the sidelines and have not returned. One has an ice pack wrapped around one of his feet, and DJ Mangus. And here, another rattled player. This time affecting the defensive side of the ball. It will be a 2nd down and 7. Snap to come from the 42.
Georgia Southern's brand of football can be very effective on the road. And a lot of times you'll ask head coaches and say, well, what do we have to do? What do you have to do to play well in maybe a hostile environment? 2 things a lot of times you'll hear: running the football and playing sound defense. And so far today, that's what Georgia Southern has been able to do. Coming in, they've won 4 of 6 games on the road, so this is a situation they are very familiar with.
A banged-up player, Mike Stover, the D-tackle, a senior, second-team All-League performer out of Millersville, Pennsylvania. Shaw faking the dive, will pitch. Nice spin as the pitch was a little behind J.J. Wilcox, but the Tribe able to sniff it out and deliver the hit. Terrell Wells, the free safety, able to come in and make the hit.
And you hit the nail on the head there, John. The key to that play was the actual pitch, because Wilcox got turned around and knocked off balance before any defender got to him.
Head coach Jimmy Laycock told me that Mike Stover, that D-tackle who was rattled, has been one of his most consistent players. And a great surprise. He's on the bench. 3rd and 9. Intercepted! Turnover for the Tribe with an escort. Brown on his heels to the end zone, and the Tribe a chance to tie it up. Evan Franks, the outside linebacker, the senior out of Medford, New Jersey, runs it back for a TD, and we got a whole new game.
Well, we talked about being in passing situations for Georgia Southern. Right there, they go back to throw, and they commit a very costly turnover. One thing to turn over the football, another thing to do it on your side of the field, an interception return for a touchdown, and that really could very well change the tenor of this football game.
And they have Callahan out there to try to go for 2 and tie the game up. Jabo Shaw entered the day with 4 TDs, 3 INTs. It's now 4-4 as his 2nd pass attempt of the day is picked off and run back. And with William and Mary setting up to go for 2, Georgia Southern is going to call timeout, recognizing the importance of this conversion attempt with 6:25 remaining in the 2nd quarter. Keep in mind that Georgia Southern scored on its first possession and has led Derek ever since by various margins.
Yeah, and, Georgia Southern in this game, they've, as we said, the tempo, everything, the pacing was in their advantage. It was in their favor, and sooner or later, if you're the William & Mary defense, you needed to come up with a turnover. They have been very good at home here over the last season plus, only allowing 9.5 points per game going back to the 2009 season. So, those type of things, that's not an accident. And you knew their defense could very well come up and make a play at some point. They do it there.
This William & Mary defense, oh so good at home. A home scoring defense of 9.5 points a game. But here, able to score points with that defense. Some thought that this William & Mary team would have some drop-off when they lost two-star defensive lineman Adrian Tracy, 6th-round pick of the Giants. Defensive tackle Sean Lissamore, 7th-round pick of the Dallas Cowboys. But this Tribe team, under the leadership of Bob Shoop, has done a great job defensively, and other teams have noticed, according to FootballScoop.com, they say Bob Shoop has interviewed to succeed Bobby Lamb at Furman. And by the way, he would then see Georgia Southern every year as another member of the Southern Conference. Callahan on the two-point conversion try. Drop ball. They had it. And the ball clean dropped. Ryan Moody unable to bring it in. And it's still an Eagle advantage at 2 points.
Not sure if a hand got in there to stop Moody from making the catch, but that looked like a catchable football for Moody.
And indeed, I think you might be right there, Derek. GSU in coverage had the nickelback Carson Hill. His older brother Leroy, might have heard of him. He was a starting linebacker for the Seahawks on that Super Bowl 40 team back in 2006. Carson, a senior out of Milledgeville, Georgia. 3 pass breakups on the year, make it 4. That's a big breakup of a 2-point conversion try, but still you feel like William & Mary has some wind in its sails. A downtrodden team after 3 injuries, penalties disrupting a 1st and goal opportunity from the 7 results in eventually a field goal. Now they have some new life.
Well, they needed some confidence boosting on the defensive side of the football. They had made a play here or there, but they get the stop to set up the third down play in the interception by Franks, and now all of a sudden it's a 2-point game in favor still of Georgia Southern, but they can't feel quite as confident as what they did maybe perhaps 10 minutes ago.
TK Hester trying to liven up the end zone portion of the Tribe crowd. Kickoff by Kuhn. Scott on the return. He's already busted one big one today. But here, better job in team pursuit. And what do you know? Who's one of the guys leading the way there, but TK Hester getting the first contact.
So they won't quite start out with the solid field position that we've seen them start out with over the last few drives here. And for William & Mary and their defense, very important to try to stabilize this game right now at a 2-point situation, because if you let Georgia Southern come out here and put together a time-consuming drive or knock off a big play, then that really will again take away some of the momentum that you just gained from the interception return for a score.
One thing to note, 6:20 to go on this first half. Georgia Southern could use all that time on one drive. Big blitz up the middle. On the dive, they guess right and stuff it. Evan Franks, who had that pick, one of the men in there on the contact. That's a gain of about 1. As Robert Brown was on the carry.
So with that dive play there for Georgia Southern, you have a few options. Number one, you go with the dive play. Either Shaw takes it to the outside, or you have a man running around on his right to try to take the pitch. So very, very important that discipline stays a part of the Tribe's game here defensively.
Let's see how Shaw responds. His first possession on the heels of that pick 6. They fake the dive. Shaw on the keep and able to plow through 2 hits. He is incredibly tough. I mean, these 2 quarterbacks today, Callahan of William & Mary and Shaw of Georgia Southern, they're going to have some war stories to tell family members down the line.
They can exchange stories with each other about injuries a great deal. There's no question about that. These are 2 guys that spend their fair share of time with trainers throughout the course of the week besides preparing for the upcoming opponent.
The knockout blow that took Shaw out of last week's game against South Carolina State, he said it felt like a boxer getting punched square in the jaw. Blitz shown. Shaw on the edge. Nothing. On 3rd down and 2, they'll drop him for perhaps a loss of a yard. Much better job of team speed and unison in pursuit of this option.
Yeah, he never got a chance to turn and get his shoulders square downfield, and because of that, the defense, great pursuit by William and Mary there to get to the corner, set the edge, and not let Shaw really make anything else out of that run.
Here's Charlie Edwards, transfer to UAB. Georgia Southern led the country in net punting at over 40 per punt and forces a fair catch here by B.W. Webb, who rather dangerously tried to return one in a very similar circumstance earlier in the game. So with 4:22 remaining in this first half, each team has 2 timeouts, and William and Mary has a chance to forge ahead and perhaps grab its first lead of this game going into the locker room.
And John, by the way, that's one interesting aspect of this game we haven't really talked about because of the triple option. There's some names from William and Mary that you normally call that you haven't really been talking about per se, and that's one of those guys is B.W. Webb, who's a very good corner.
But since he's more of a shutdown corner against the passing game, we haven't seen much in that way today. Out of a play fake, backside pressure. Callahan feels it, floats it away. Heck of a job by Callahan, who several times this game has just felt that pressure. The William and Mary fans want a late hit flag, but they won't get it.
Well, you've got to be able to feel the heat if you're the quarterback, and Callahan did there. But again, play action, not able to set up and look downfield. He has to keep moving because he felt that pressure, moved to the near side, just had to get rid of the football.
And Lang Campbell is not the first, nor will he probably be the last walk-on quarterback to start for Jimmy Laycock's Tribe. Lang Campbell walked on in 2004, or excuse me, in 2001. Got a starting job as a junior. As a senior, he won the Walter Payton Award, the FCS Heisman. Callahan directing on the run. Throws it out of play. He was hoping to find Grimes because he saw a zone blitz. It was the end John Douglas who was in coverage against his running back, but they could not communicate correctly on the route.
Well, and downfield, and he kind of felt, it looked like there was nobody there to go to. Trying to clear out some room there by directing a player downfield, could not do it, and again, not able to go anywhere with that football.
Lang Campbell, by the way, saw time with the Cleveland Browns, the Atlanta Falcons, Arizona Cardinals. He's now in the Arena League. And one of his successors, multiple times removed, Mike Callahan, on the field with a 3rd and 10. Ball at the 23. Great pressure on a 4-man rush, but he finds a crossing route. Chase Hill over the middle. And that's going to get him to right around the marker. Looks again like a generous spot. We've seen it go both ways today. But depending upon this spot, I think they're going to call for a measurement here.
Going to be awfully close.
He had to get to the 33-yard line. And they will indeed measure. Chase Hill, 3rd-team All-League performer, a senior out of Virginia Beach, Virginia.
/social media for more information.
Right on the near side of the field. We'll see the call. It's a 1st down. That's another big spot with 3:59 to go on the half.
And again, Hill and Callahan, that's a connection that we've seen a couple times nearly work, but this time good enough for a 1st down.
Callahan said quitting was never an option through all the years as a walk-on, as a backup. Even when Michael Paulus, parade All-American, the brother of the former Duke point guard, Syracuse quarterback Greg Paulus, decided to transfer in from UNC. He was always going to play. Here handing off to Grimes. Drops the shoulder on Hayden. Gets an extra few yards, just over the 40. It's a gain of about 7.
Good vision there shown by Grimes, able to again cut, move it to the outside, and get some extra yardage.
There's that first contact from Hayden. Giving help was E.J. Webb.
Tackle made by
Spot the ball at the 41, so that'll be a gain of 8. 2nd down and a couple for the Tribe.
At the 41.
Callahan under center, looking for a harder snap count. Southern Brings a safety up to show blitz. Grimes. Boundary. Grimes. From behind to the 44-yard line. The D tackle, Roderick Tinsley, who was slow to get up thereafter. That's another Tribe first down.
When you get in the open field, you got to try to make a man miss, and that's what Grimes does here. Getting past Hayden, getting a few more extra yards downfield and into Eagles territory.
Now Callahan out of the gun, doesn't have much. Going to get on the corner. Find his man. Wow. You thought he was going to throw it away, but instead it's Ryan Moody. A gain of 11 and another first down.
And John, they're really trying to speed up the tempo now of this offense, and credit Callahan there. When he's moved outside, a lot of times he hasn't found a lot of success, that time hitting Moody.
Right-handed thrower rolling to his left off his back foot. Able to find the hands of his target. Ball at the 33. Callahan just getting started, rubbing those hands together. His completion percentage would have led the CAA if he had enough games and passing attempts to qualify. His quarterback rating would have led the country. Deep ball right side for Moody, one-on-one with Scott, and Scott soars in the air to knock it down. What a job by Scott from behind, maintaining verticality, not interfering with the receiver, and still getting a hand on it.
The ball a little bit underthrown, I thought. Moody had to stop and come back for it a little bit, and that gave Scott the advantage.
Now second down and 10, and that slows the roll a little bit of this Tribe team, which indeed, as you mentioned, has done a great job of speeding the game up.
And when you go to no huddle for a team like this that maybe Georgia Southern are not used to seeing that tempo, at least in that spot, a good change of pace by the Tribe.
No motion. Over the middle. A first down yet again. Ryan Woolfolk, the wide receiver, converted DB out of Atlanta, Georgia. Another Tribe first down.
Again, just going back to throw, looking, finding some time, and dumping off over the middle. So Callahan being very patient, not panicking, showing a lot of composure back there, even when pressure is converging upon him.
First and 10. Ball at the Georgia Southern 17. Now the Tribe a chance in the red zone again. Long cadence. Grimes. Not a whole lot. Great job by Darius Eubanks to get behind the line of scrimmage there. Blake Riley, the backup tackle, the freshman, able to give some help as well.
Very good pursuit there by Eubanks. They ran away from him towards the right side, and he just chased that play down.
William and Mary in the red zone this year, second best in the CAA, 84% success. The Georgia Southern defense led the SoCon, allowing opponents to score just 73.5% of the time. 90 seconds to go on this opening half. Second and 10. Pump fake to Moody again. Push off. No flag. Field judge says, I'm not giving it. They tacked against the nickelback in Carson Hill. And our field judge, Dan Carr, was right on top of the play. That's playoff football, Derek.
Yeah, you're going to have contact. Both guys fighting for the football. They went with the pump fake there. Callahan trying to trick Scott basically with it, but instead, or excuse me, not Scott, Carson Hill. No call, and maybe the best call there.
Third down and 10. The Zabel Stadium crowd is not happy. 1:24 to go on the half. Callahan. Plenty of time. And behind his man in Moody. And Moody got separation. They were running a zone there, and he had the middle linebacker row. The crowd choruses down boos. I don't think for the ineffectiveness of the drive, still hearkening back to the non-call on the push, as it will be field goal time, and bottom line, still a chance for the Tribe to grab the lead.
Yes, and that's the main thing you try to take out of this. If they're able to hit this field goal, you go up one. But again, Georgia Southern's defense not breaking.
This is going to be a 34-yard attempt for the redshirt freshman and Williamsburg product, Drake Kuhn. The kick is on the way, and the kick is good. So William and Mary, with 1 minute and 13 seconds remaining in the first half, the favored Tribe, the 2 seed in the tournament, looking for its 12th straight home win, grabs its first lead of the day by a single point.
The good news, I think, if you're Georgia Southern, is that you lost the lead for a moment, but your defense was able to hold again in a spot where you get down in the red zone and William & Mary has to settle for a field goal. So I think if you're the Eagles, that's really the lone positive you can take out of that situation, is the fact that you're able to once again take a few punches down the field, but not that knockout blow provided by the William & Mary offense.
The boos keep coming down as head coach Jimmy Laycock chats with the field judge. Had a conversation with Dan Carr. The other high seeds are enjoying some lopsided leads right now. Appalachian State is blowing out Western Illinois 35-14. That's early stage fourth quarter. Delaware all over Lehigh 42-20 early stage fourth quarter. And in the middle of the fourth quarter, Wofford pacing Jacksonville State 17-8. New Hampshire leading Bethune-Cookman 21-14 early third quarter. And North Dakota State, Montana State early second quarter 7-0 North Dakota State. Ron Scott on the return from his own 11. Scott can break it. Flag comes out, likely nullifying whatever transpires here. Scott does get to the 41-yard line, but that flag was in the area of holding just off the near hash.
When you see guys try to return kicks and run wide like that from one side of the field to the other, don't be surprised to see a holding call here or an illegal block.
On the return, please, number 85. 10 yards penalty. First down.
And indeed, that will be a block in the back call from our referee, Vance Harris. 1 minute, 3 seconds remaining. And some say that one of the weaknesses of the triple option, while it is so versatile, it is so potent. When you operate from a deficit, when you don't have a lot of time, it can handicap you a bit. Here with 1 minute and 3 seconds, what's reasonable to expect from Georgia Southern on this possession?
I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they try to spread them out, but I try to play it safe here and go into the locker room down one.
They dive to Brown. Bad job of tackling there on 2 occasions by the Tribe. He's going to get past the marker. That's going to stop the clock as they set the change. 54 seconds. Georgia Southern has 2 timeouts as the Eagles will have a 1st and 10 from their own 31.
And it looks like they will try to make a go of this thing, but they're going to have to be very careful. Shaw still has not completed a pass on the day.
Now he'll whip one out, looking for Mitchell Williford. Able to get out of bounds at around the 35. Williford's second on the team in receptions, a sophomore at Duluth, Georgia. And it looks like Georgia Southern's going to call a timeout here.
And John, you bring up a great point. I mean, with this type of offense, a 2-minute offense is probably the type of thing that maybe you're not used to being in, as far as, well, it's a running situation for a team that doesn't throw a lot. So you'd have to be very careful as far as what you do here with the football. You don't want another turnover, obviously, with the last drive where you had really a game-changing type environment where you have the interception thrown and then they run it back into the end zone for a score.
Unable to get out of play, nearly had that ball stripped. That's what head coach Jimmy Laycock, who was only several feet away from the play, was imploring from one of our side officials. He thought that this player was able to rip it clean, but he was already down by contact. So 39 seconds, Georgia Southern with 1 timeout, a 2nd and 6 to come from its own 35, down a point. And place kicker Adrian Mora has hit from as long as 45 yards this year. In fact, that was one of his 3 field goal makes last week in the 41-16 rout of South Carolina State.
So you still need a sizable chunk of yardage here to get at least within that range.
You're looking at needing to get to around the 28-yard line of William & Mary. 2nd down and 6. Shaw on the roll. Shaw going to try to tuck. He'll throw late to nobody. 3rd down and 6. And the danger, of course, here, Derek, in being very aggressive, 33 seconds. And William & Mary has a couple of timeouts and has a little bit more of an aerial threat, along with a pretty strong-legged kicker in their own right.
No question, you do leave the door open here if you're unable to convert on a 3rd and 6. So still, potentially could be enough time for William & Mary to get the ball back and maybe set up, depending on how this breaks out, for another field goal.
3rd and 6. Shaw is 1 of 4 passing today with a pick 6. Big pressure shown and movement. I think they got the left side of the Georgia Southern line to flinch, and Ryan Byrne. They're trying to time the blitz.
Timeout. Georgia Southern.
And actually, Georgia Southern calls a timeout here before the play. So with Georgia Southern calling timeout, I guess recognizing the formation, seeing that pressure from William & Mary, you would think essentially exhausting its attempts at trying to score, right? 33 seconds in a run-heavy offense at your own 35.
Well, because now, even if you do get the first down, you're in a situation where unless you get something big downfield, you're really going to have to scuffle here to set yourself up for a potential field goal setup with that amount of time left and no timeouts.
Well, some news about William & Mary and a great benefit that's going on today. They're running a fundraiser for Todd Weaver, graduate of nearby Bruton High and the College of William & Mary. He was a soldier killed in the line of duty in Afghanistan back in September. And his father, Don, said, from our perspective, now the sorrow must be replaced by the pride, because day to day we dishonor Todd. We don't find a way to honor his legacy. We had him for 26 years, said his mother. He was a bright light in our life from the day he was born, and we'll continue to have him in a different way. They're having a fundraiser trying to raise $20,000 for a fund in his honor, being paid for in part by wristbands that are being sold at the stadium today. 3rd and 6. Shaw going to keep it. Shaw with a block of Brown gets a first. Stop the clock as they move the chains. 25 seconds, down a point.
So the clock will stop here. It will not continue until they set the chains and the official gives a signal.
Now it rolls. Shaw under center to the 43. Dive to Brown. Not a whole lot.
Ball goes to Brown.
Shaw trying to get his team together. Sideline giving instructions. Will they spike here? Shaw out of timeouts indeed. Will spike the football. 5 seconds. So now Georgia Southern can try to take a chance and let it fly toward the end zone.
Yeah, that's really the only play here, unless, you know, we've seen teams in some situations try to dump off over the middle and then try a lateral backwards. Maybe to try to create some misdirection and get a guy running across the field and catch a defender out of position. But that's always a tough play to execute. But we'll see here with 5 seconds left what they have up their sleeves potentially.
3rd down and 7 for the Eagles. 5 seconds remaining on the half. Shaw under center as they go trips on the bottom portion of your screen with one set back. Very different look. Pressure comes from the Tribe. Shaw going to run. Time expires, and Shaw will get hit at the William & Mary 37-yard line, and that's going to do it on the half. As the hit was delivered by the man who had that pick 6, the linebacker Franks. And William & Mary down some men. At least 3 players were injured during the course of the half that did not return to the field of play during it. Has the lead 15-14. Even though Georgia Southern, Derek, for the most part, in terms of consistency, seemed to enjoy the bigger half. It's that big pick 6, a huge turnaround play.
No question. Remember, Georgia Southern held the ball for just 3.5 minutes plus in the first quarter, but still held the lead and were able to build that lead to 14-6 until you get the interception return for a score by Franks, which helped change the game. Because if you take that out of the mix for a moment, I think Georgia Southern has to be relatively happy with the line play. Although it looks like, from the Georgia Southern's offensive perspective, the defensive line and the defense overall of William & Mary is playing a little bit better as this game is going along. Conversely, though, I think if you're William & Mary, you have to be able to cash in on these opportunities you get in the red zone. They're settling for field goals right now. Remember, they have 15 points. That's not coming from offensive touchdowns. So it's just a defensive score, and then you throw field goals into the mix as well. Also, a missed 2-point conversion when the score was 14-12. So Georgia Southern's defense is giving their offense an opportunity to win this game.
And so it is just a 1-point game at halftime. We'll step aside here on NCAA.com. When we come back, we'll have the first half stats, and then we'll bring you the start of the second. But at the break from Zabel Stadium in Williamsburg, Virginia, it's the Tribe, the second seed in this tournament, leading the Georgia Southern Eagles 15-14. We'll talk to you in a bit.
telecast.com? Yeah. Right, that's what we're doing. Sorry? I didn't know it was going to be televised. Yeah, it's just on the internet, but yeah.
The camera is different than the one that's here for the other television. You guys don't have commercial breaks.
Sorry?
You guys don't have commercial breaks.
No.
You just televise.
It's gone right.
You just film whatever's happening. Whatever happens.
Yeah, we do replays and stuff like that, but just no commercials. Yeah, there's two fellas sitting inside the box room. Yeah.
in other football action today in the FCS playoffs. 6 minutes remaining. App State 42.
And welcome back, folks, to Zabel Stadium, Williamsburg, Virginia. We thank you for joining us here on NCAA.com. I'm John Sadak alongside Derek Jones. A thrilling first half, 15-14 your score, as we are just about 4 minutes away from second half action. Derek, you can run through some of the stats, some of them not a surprise.
Yes, you know, coming into this game, we knew that Georgia Southern was going to obviously use their offense through the ground and the running game, and they've done it effectively so far. 25 carries, 172 yards on the ground. Overall, 176 yards of total offense to 155 for William & Mary. Time of possession, edge William & Mary, 16 minutes, 13 seconds to 13:47 for Georgia Southern. But remember, after the first quarter, Georgia Southern had just held the ball for 3 minutes and 33 seconds. So that really flipped heading into the second quarter. But I think right now, a couple of big differences. If you're a Georgia Southern fan, you look at J-Bo Shaw. Shaw running the football, 10 carries, 49 yards. By the way, Robert Brown, 12, 106, and a score. But J-Bo Shaw, through the air, 1 of 4 for 4 yards, but an interception and a costly one.
Robert Brown leading the way. J-Bo Shaw, 10 rushes, 50 yards. He's averaging 5 a carry. Robert Brown is averaging 9 a carry, including a long of 45. That was on Georgia Southern's first possession. Georgia Southern got on the board at the 11:38 mark when a Robert Brown 6-yard run capped off a 4-play, 61-yard drive that took a very efficient 1 minute and 35 seconds, made it 7-0 Georgia Southern. William & Mary had to settle for a field goal on the subsequent possession, had a first down and goal from the 7-yard line. Consecutive penalties backed up the tribe. Drake Kuhn was good on a 32-yard field goal, capped off a 9-play, 45-yard drive, took 4 minutes and 49 seconds, made it 7-3. Kuhn again with 5 seconds remaining first quarter, connected from 36 yards out. That was a 13-play, 58-yard drive that took 4 minutes and 46 seconds, made it a 1-point game at 7-6. Early second quarter, J-Ball Shaw, a 1-yard run, his 14th rushing touchdown of the team's 35 this year. That was a 10-play, 54-yard drive, took 5.5 minutes, made it 14-6. Keep in mind that Georgia Southern, after that score, just 4 minutes into the game, led the entire game from that point until William & Mary made a spurt. Had a chance to tie when Evan Franks picked off J-Bo Shaw right around the hash mark, returned it 48 yards for a touchdown. The 2-point conversion try, though, failed. Great job by the nickelback for Georgia Southern to get his hand in there, Carson Hill, and knock the ball free of the intended target in Ryan Moody. It was still a 2-point GSU lead, but William & Mary got the final score before the break. It was Kuhn again from 33 yards out, a 12-play, 60-yard drive that took 3 minutes and 9 seconds. With 1:13 to go in the first half, William & Mary grabbed its only lead, which it currently holds at the start of the second, 15-14. Red zone scores and chances. GSU 2 for 2. William & Mary 3 for 3. And both teams, Derek, pretty effective in third down.
Oh, absolutely. Georgia Southern 4 of 7 on third down. William & Mary 5 of 10. So both teams doing a very good job of keeping drives alive. But if you're the defense on each side, you got to figure out a way to create a little bit more pressure on third down. So the one thing I should say about William & Mary in that 5 of 10, the 5 third downs, some of those that they haven't been able to pick up have been pivotal because those have led to field goals and not touchdowns in the red zone. So Georgia Southern's defense, that's one of the reasons why they're still in this game. Those 7s potentially have been turned into 3s.
They're the backup quarterback for the Tribe, getting some time, Brent Caprio. It should be Callahan at the start of this half. Mike Callahan was 7 of 18 passing. No touchdowns, no picks, 53 yards, a long of 16. He was sacked once. For Georgia Southern, J-Bo Shaw, as you mentioned, 1 of 4 with that big pick 6. Only 4 yards on the lone completion. Leading the way for Georgia Southern defensively, linebacker Josh Rowe had 8 tackles, 3 unassisted, 1 sack. Roderick Tinsley, the defensive lineman, he had 5 tackles, 4 unassisted. Derek Hyde in the safety, 4 tackles. Darius Eubanks had 3 tackles, 2 unassisted. For William & Mary, Dante Cook, the linebacker, 7 tackles, led the way. 5 unassisted, Terrell Wells had 6. Wes Steinman with 4. And Beerhalter on the defensive line had 4. We are just about set for second half action, as the Tribe will be kicking, the 2 seed in these FCS playoffs. William & Mary at 8-3, 6-2. And the powerful Colonial Athletic Association, a league that has made the title game in 6 of the last 7 years. 5 schools have done that, and they've won the national title 4 times. Delaware 03, James Madison 04, Richmond 08, Nova 09, William & Mary trying to become yet another CAA team to reach and perhaps win a national championship. Drake Kuhn, who's perfect on field goal to kick it away. LaRon Scott, the star return man from his own 15. Scott riding the hash, falls down, flag flies, 33-yard line. And that's not good news for GSU.
Trying to stretch that play out again, and we'll check the flag, but as we said, oftentimes it's either a hold or an illegal block.
Holding. Number 89 on the return team. 10-yard penalty. First down.
And it seems like it had very little impact. He had already gained the yardage that he wound up with, as we get the call from our referee, Vance Harris, but that's a big holding call.
And I was about to say, because it looked like he was going to be able to, if he stayed on his feet there, he could have gone out past the 35 or even towards the 40, but they've been able to start out with relatively decent field position in most of their drives, but in this one, not the case.
So Jabo Shaw and company, 1st and 10 of the 19. Loss of 10 on that penalty. And some miscommunication perhaps on the play, or a change of play. They were motioning Wilcox, but Shaw orders him to hold put. William & Mary showing a blitz, bottom portion of the screen, so they'll go opposite of that pressure. Shaw on the pitch. Robinson brings it in. Robinson down the sidelines, galloping past the safety. Robinson one man, and he's pushed at the 38-yard line. Ben Cottingham, the quarterback, finally gets the contact, and what savvy recognition by Shaw. He saw that pressure, reversed the play, and boy, is that a big gain of yardage.
That looks like a play we saw early on in this game in the first quarter with Brown, but this time it's Robinson busting it down the sideline. We talked about the big 20-yard plus plays. We had not really seen one in a while from Georgia Southern. We see one there, and that is a positive start for this Eagles offense in the second half.
A 44-yard run by the slot back Darian Robinson. Now the dive to the fullback Robert Brown.
Handed to Robert Brown.
It's like Chinese water torture. They get a little bit, and then you start to guess, you start to believe some tendencies, and they just blow your plans right up.
And again, they're going to have to not necessarily go back to the drawing board, but, you know, Georgia Southern, they go in the locker room, perhaps tweak a couple things, and then you have to make your adjustments again. It's a game of chess out there on the offensive side and the defensive side.
2nd and 5. Shaw calls for Robinson in motion. He'll fake the dive. He's going to pass. Left side. Caught. First down, Eagles. Only the second completion of the day as he finds the slot back, J.J. Wilcox. He averages almost 29 yards a catch. That's why.
And the hands of Wilcox coming into play there. That ball delivered in the one spot where the defender could not get to it, and Wilcox, showing the solid hands, makes a catch.
His high school team, Cairo, Georgia, was known as the Syrup Makers. All sweetness there for Wilcox. Left side of Georgia Southern's line moved.
Ball start. Offense. Number 71. 5-yard penalty. First down.
That's going to go on the left tackle, Dorian Bird. He's a true freshman out of Macon, Georgia.
A left tackle as a freshman, that is not something you'll see a great deal of in college football, because the left tackle, that's one of the most important spots in all of football, because that's the blind side protector of the quarterback, and for an option offense as well. That's very important, obviously, anytime they run to the left side.
1st and 15 from the 18 as a result of the penalty. They'll motion Wilcox. Shaw will keep. Shaw riding a few blocks. Shaw to the end zone, and he's in. An 18-yard run for Jabo Shaw, his second score of the day, and the second half just underway. Derek, the Eagles are back on top.
Jabo Shaw put his stamp on this game with that drive. He comes out, makes a little bit of a change at the line on the first play to Robinson with that long run, then the throw to Wilcox, which was put in the one spot where Wilcox, it was either going out of bounds or Wilcox was going to catch it, and now he comes up with a touchdown run.
Adrian Mora, perfect on extra points all year, will remain so on this day. 3 for 3 on the day, 41 for 41 of the season, as the Eagles begin this half by marching down the field in 2 minutes and 1 second. A huge 44-yard run by Darian Robinson, part of it. The big pass play to J.J. Wilcox, and it's Shaw on the keep to make it 21-15.
We talked about the number of bodies that Georgia Southern can offer up in the run game. Shaw can be effective. We've seen what Brown can do, and also now Robinson as well. So those are three guys, and Wilcox, you could throw him into the mix there as well, although he hasn't really had a big day on the ground as of yet. It's a matter of time. If you're a Georgia Southern fan, that's what you're thinking, at least with this running game, before you pop a big one. And William and Mary, they were able to hold off there after the early run by Brown, but now Robinson coming up with a big play.
4 plays, 81 yards, 2 minutes and 1 second, capped off by that 18-yard run by the Georgia Tech transfer, Jabo Shaw. Now it's kick time for Billy Greer, who was booming little bit warm-ups before the start of this half. The wind has varied, has reached as high as 15 miles an hour, appears to be relatively calm right now. A slight breeze blowing near the far side of your screen across the grain of the field. Grimes, a dangerous return man, number 34, alongside Ryan Woolfolk. And they'll kick this one toward Woolfolk. Woolfolk from inside of his own 10. Big block leveled by Grimes, helps to spring Woolfolk. Gallops toward the 25-yard line, so that's a gain of about 17 on that return. And here comes the Tribe offense.
Now the pressure, John, falls right back on the shoulders of William and Mary. You get the lead back 15-14, and now right out of the half, the start of the third quarter, you give up the lead.
Callahan knows a thing or two about engineering comebacks. He was inserted third quarter for a huge come-from-behind win against Delaware. It resulted in a 1-point final. This was a 1-point game at half. As the handoff, you see a flag come out. Could not stop forward progress. William and Mary able to plow this one to around the 32. It's a gain of 6, but it'll come back.
Holding. Offense. Number 75. 10-yard penalty. First down.
That's going to go on the right guard. A holding call. Matt Crisafi, redshirt freshman out of Marietta, Georgia, suburb of Atlanta, which is about 3 hours north of Statesboro, the home of Georgia Southern. Crisafi has had starts in the last 6 games, 2 at left guard, 4 at right guard. And this one makes it a first down and 20 at the 16.
Just the fourth penalty of the game against William and Mary.
As they direct snap this to Grimes. Grimes to the edge, beyond the original line of scrimmage, hit out of bounds. Will there be a flag? The crowd going crazy. They've been riding the officials today. To me, that's a football play, but the crowd has some other thoughts. That was Josh Rowe, the middle linebacker.
Rowe had 8 tackles in the first half and a sack. I don't know. I don't know about that one. He was already out of bounds and he pulled him down.
Second down and 8. No motion Grimes. Callahan trying to keep those hands warm. Corner blitz. Pass far side to Grimes. And Grimes gets a gain of a few. Derek Hyden, the strong safety, on the bump.
You can see why the fans a little bit upset at perhaps that no call there by the officials, but still they get good yards out of the run by Grimes, and after that run, or at least the pass, it's a 3rd and 4 situation here for the Tribe.
That was a gain of 4. Big third down for Callahan and company. Huge blitz shown coming right up the middle. Long cadence. Here comes the pressure. Callahan, little too tall, leaves his receiver prone at Chase Hill, and he gets buried. Georgia Southern has taken every opportunity to punish receivers over the middle, and there another one will force a punt.
They are leaving their respective calling card with the receivers of William and Mary. Those guys are not catching the football and just running out of bounds. They are getting hit hard, anything incomplete. If it's close, they are getting hit for their efforts.
So now it'll be the punt of David Miller. Great hang time, fair catch for Robinson. And he'll make it right at the 25-yard line. So here comes the Georgia Southern offense after its defense does the job. What a job defensively Georgia Southern has done. And keep in mind that the resurrection of the program was built around a defensive guy in Irk Russell. Georgia Southern had football starting back in 1910, but disbanded the program after World War II. They hired Russell, the longtime coordinator to Vince Dooley at Georgia in 1981. They fielded a club team at 82 with all walk-on players, had a winning record. 2 years later, first year as a varsity team, they narrowly missed the playoffs. In their second year as a varsity team, they win their first of a record 6 national championships. Shaw with plenty of time, able to swing it out in the flat. Brown, the fullback, makes one man miss, stays on his feet, and it's going to take a ton of trying to finally bring him down.
Gotta love the extra effort there of Brown, and those plays like that are so critical because you have to fight, obviously, for every yard. The later you get into the game, it's especially for a team like this where it's so crucial to stay in short yardage situations because of the style of offense they run. Good job there by Brown to keep his legs churning and staying low to the ground.
Brian Thompson couldn't bring him down on his own. Needed help from B.W. Webb and Wes Steinman. 2nd and 2 from the 33. 21-15, Georgia Southern has the lead in the ball. Early stage third quarter, Brown on the dive. And yet again, able to plow over the first contact, this time of Ben Cottingham, the quarterback. And there are players, and you alluded to it earlier, Derek, that are seeing a type of contact and a place on the field that they're not used to. Corners against traditional offenses are not taking hits from fullbacks at the line of scrimmage.
Absolutely not. I mean, the corners are traditionally, they're worried about the receiver in front of them, backpedaling, doing all of those things. They are in attack mode in this game more often than what they are used to.
Motion, a flinch on the line for William and Mary. They had Wilcox curling behind Shaw.
Brown on the carry.
And let's see the call.
Up by Dante Cook.
It was Brown up the middle, the linebacker Cook getting the stop.
Penalty marker down.
And indeed, it was that flinch, the left tackle on the line. William and Mary believes that it was drawn off, but it looked like it came from the try.
Yeah, there was without a doubt some movement early on by them. And they will give up the 5 here to Georgia Southern.
These schools have some amazing alums. William and Mary, perhaps the signature alumnus, Thomas Jefferson, who created the nation's first honor code. William and Mary, the second oldest school in the country, trailing only Harvard, founded back in 1693. Under 10 to go, third quarter. Shaw with Robinson in motion, late pitch, great read. Robinson, a stiff arm, able to stretch and get an extra couple of yards. Something from very little. They had Shaw dead to rights. Now Robinson seems banged up. But Robinson, a great job at that stiff and extend.
It looked like he was in big trouble in that play early on. He cut back, and when he did, that kind of, because of the edge, it was closed off on him, but he was able to bust it back outside, and now appears to be injured on the far side.
It was Dante Cook who delivered to the hit. Among the other notable alums, Mike Tomlin, head coach of the Steelers, Jon Stewart, Comedy Central, The Daily Show, actress Glenn Close, Saint safety Darren Sharper, who played along with Mike Tomlin, for Jimmy Laycock, who's out there in his 31st season. They fake the dive, Shaw on the keep, but a flag flies, and this one is going to go against the Eagles.
Player snap, false start, offense, 5-yard penalty, second down.
That'll be another false start penalty. For Georgia Southern, some notable alums, one of which, Derek, you did not realize until we saw him on television last night. Actor Danny McBride, star of the popular HBO program Eastbound and Down, one of our shared favorites.
Yes, Kenny Powers. Kenny Powers making his way towards Mexico in season 2, back in North Carolina at the end of season 2.
Second down and 8. Shaw from his own 39. It's Brown with a huge hole. First down. Brown into the secondary, finally brought down by the strong safety, Brian Thompson. Football-wise, of course, Adrian Peterson, the former Bears running back, who had the run in the national championship game that ended Jim Tressel's career at Youngstown State. It ended perhaps not exactly the apt term. He went to greener pastures, but turned out to be his last game. And also Michael Curry of NBA fame, former Pistons head coach, president of the Players Association, and now the associate head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers.
And he's been a vital part for the Sixers because of the illness for Doug Collins.
Little pitch. Space yet again. Georgia Southern able to find Brian Wiltshire, who had no catches, no rushes on the year. The sophomore slot back out of Dublin, Georgia. As it looked like Robinson was banged up a couple of plays ago, they have to go to the well a little bit. And they find a second down and 1 as a result of that rip of 9+.
Once again, John, when you allow these runners for Georgia Southern to square up and get their shoulders square downfield, they are hard to stop.
Second and 1. Do you take a shot here, Derek?
I think it's a good time.
They'll dive to Brown, slips through another first tackle, and you see hands flying in the air from William and Mary in frustration. On that occasion, it appeared to be at the right end. Brian Jean-Pierre saying, come on, guys, we got to wrap these guys up at the line of scrimmage.
Well, hey, we talked about this going back to the first half. You're heading into a point in the game now where you're going to start seeing some missed tackles, I think, and it's very important for William and Mary. Gang tackling, all that stuff, you have to be able to collectively as a group make sure that these guys aren't busting long runs downfield.
We approach the midway point of third quarter. Shaw, nothing. Penetration from Marcus High, the second team All-CAA performer, ranked third among Colonial defensive linemen in tackles at 5 a game. And that's going to be a tackle for loss, his 12th of the season.
Also 5.5 sacks this season, but again, those pass rushing skills not really a factor today.
Not the traditional offense to try to counter. Second down and 12 from the Tribe 38. 21-15, Georgia Southern the lead of the ball. Second round of the FCS playoffs, and a dive. They go to the fullback, rumbling for a first down. Toby Akinarani, the 5'11 senior out of Atlanta, Georgia. He walked onto this team. He averages 7 yards a rush. They don't go to him often, but boy, does he prove fruitful when they do.
I believe that's just his 32nd carry of the season. First time we've really seen him utilized here today, and he got his money's worth on that carry.
At the 22, a first and 10. Shaw under center. Motion Wilcox, pitch to it. Wilcox right in the hash, barely keeps his balance. That first contact would have dropped most men, but that's the body control of Wilcox all the way out to the 11-yard line.
And John, you mentioned an important phrase as this game wears on, and that's first contact. I want everybody watching at home to check out from here on out in this second half the first tackler from William and Mary, and see if they can't make that first tackle, they are going to have some trouble stopping this offense.
It's another first down, but it's in the always very dangerous 1st and 10 from the 11. Motion, the dive. They go to the fullback again. Akinarani out to around the 6-yard line. That's going to be a gain of 5. Second and 5.
He is a big guy at 5'11", 219. Not an easy man to bring down with just one guy. Going to need a couple to try to knock him off his feet.
He's one of many walk-ons. Fellow fullback Lee Banks, a walk-on this team, seeing some time today. This Georgia Southern team is slapped together with pieces from other offenses handful of transfers. And man, they've been running a complex offense really well. 2nd and 5. McInerney again. We'll get a couple. 3rd down coming up.
Interesting call here if you are the offense of Georgia Southern. You're up 6. If you play it conservative, you can play for a field goal here and go up 2 scores. Or if they get a touchdown here and make it 27-15, potentially 28, they could really take a lot of juice out of this crowd.
3rd and 2 from the 3. Shaw looks sideline, recognizing the defense. Williford, the wide receiver, far side of the screen, matched up with B.W. Webb. They change the play. Motion. Dive. And they'll drop him back. Georgia Southern held as they get no gain on that carry. And on 4th down, what's the call for GSU? Got to think they'll kick the field goal here, and indeed they will send on Adrian Mora. Try to make it a 2-score game.
And that's the right call. Obviously, you're just going to try to take the 3 here. You're going to be up 2 scores if you hit this field goal. It'll be a 9-point edge.
This will be from a shade over 20 yards. The kick off the right hash is good. The kickers have been very good today. Mora, 15 of 16 on field goals this year. He has booted 4 in these playoffs. And it's now 24-15 Georgia Southern with 3:59 to go, 3rd quarter. And as every second ticks away, the underdog Eagles, combined with that status, the dormant crowd, the injuries that have added up for William & Mary, and that offense that by design can take advantage of these circumstances, inch their way closer and closer to a signature 2nd win on these playoffs.
Well, if you're William & Mary, it's certainly not time to panic yet. It's still 3rd quarter action. You're down 2 scores, but I think what you have to come out here on offense and do, stay patient. Don't try to get crazy here as far as your execution. Again, the problem that William & Mary is going to have as this game goes along is winning a very simple battle, and that's the point of attack at the line of scrimmage. They have to be able to do that, and they have not been able to do it here in the second half.
Once again, it will be Grimes and Woolfolk. On the return as Billy Greer is on to kick away. William & Mary boasts 16 signers of the Declaration of Independence among its alums. And here, William & Mary's modern football team trying to spring free from a confining deficit despite the friendly confines of its home field. Greer, a deep breath, the charge forward. And another kick. They go to Woolfolk again, but Woolfolk from his own 19 gets a good start. Now some blocks and out to around the 38-yard line. That'll be a return of about 18 yards and some solid field position for William & Mary. One of the biggest things for William & Mary, though, Derek, there is a lot of time left. There's time to get a good 5-6 possessions down the stretch, depending upon how your defense holds and how efficient your offense can be.
No question. You know, this isn't really the time to start thinking about things like, well, let's go a little bit more pass heavy. I think, obviously, you can still implement the running game in here. It's 3:54 left to go in the 3rd quarter. You're just trying to put together, I think, a good drive right now. You don't need to do anything that relates to panicking or anything along those lines.
They motion Grimes, their best running back, wide right. Callahan, plenty of time, doesn't have much. Stepping up, he's going to be hit and brought down. Russell on the front side, and pressure from Josh Gebhardt on the backside.
And again, the defensive line play of Georgia Southern has been really key in terms of their success here today. And Russell has not done a lot in terms of tackles, but he has been a disruptive force. That group collectively very disruptive today.
He sees so many double teams when they're able to rush forward. And then when they blitz, Grimes able to cut back. And Grimes keeps his footing after a hit from E.J. Webb. Solid gain, gets him to the marker, and that will be a 1st down for the Tribe.
And John, you know, anytime you have tackles like that, you know, Tinsley and Russell in the middle, that is a big help to your linebackers, and it makes it a lot easier for them to pursue plays.
3:05 and rolling third quarter from Zabel Stadium in Williamsburg, Virginia. Temperatures in the mid-30s with the sun setting. Callahan under center. No motion. Callahan, play fake. He's got time. Deep target. Separation for Moody. He got it. Ryan Moody over the top. Able to burn the free safety, Michael Butler. And William and Mary in a familiar spot inside of the 10-yard line. And this is going to be a holding call. A flag goes against the Tribe and negates the big play.
Big Roderick Tinsley looking over at the sideline of Georgia Southern, very, very excited about that penalty being called against William and Mary, and that all comes back to, you know, not being able to control the line of scrimmage, committing the holding call there, and that takes away a long game for William and Mary, and something again that could have really helped set them up. It would have been a goal-to-go situation, but instead, now it's a 1st and long.
First down and 20 for William and Mary. How many blows can the favored 2-seed Tribe take? Callahan from under center. They late show blitz on the long cadence. Handoff going to Grimes, and he's met just a yard beyond the line of scrimmage. Josh Rowe and Darius Eubanks combined to bring him down. And the clock continues to roll, which is all the more on Georgia Southern's side, even without the ball. It helps Georgia Southern leading by a couple of scores.
Oh, absolutely. As we said before, with their offense, triple option, this is exactly where you want to be. You're an offense that primarily runs the football. You're going to try to drain the clock, but you have a defense here that can help force this offense off the field.
2nd and 18. Here comes the pressure. Callahan should have a target. Moody right between his hands. Moody, defended by LaRon Scott, had the inside step right off the hash, and he had about 2 yards short of a first down.
It looks like Callahan today has really just been a little out of sync with the receivers, missing off a step here or there, maybe underthrowing a couple balls deep as well. Even that throw downfield to Moody, the long completion, that was underthrown a bit as well. So I think when you take a look at it, the timing has really been disrupted, and you can see that William and Mary not quite comfortable.
Remember, William and Mary has been without the services of its second primary target, tight end Alex Gottlieb, since early in the game, first drive, when he had his bell rung on a first down catch. Callahan pressured hard. Callahan ripped down. Tarico Agnew, the sophomore, and the several thousand that journey north from Statesboro, Georgia, erupt on the far side of the field.
We saw Agnew early on in the first half create some pressure on Callahan. Here he delivers with a sack.
Agnew able to bring down Mike Callahan. Now the alternating Georgia Southern chant starts to come out. The punt from David Miller. Fair catch called for and nearly dropped. Able to collect last moment and bring it in to Mitchell Williford. Remember that normally you would see Darian Robinson in the punt return game. He took a hard hit in Georgia Southern's last possession, did not return to the base offense, and here not on its special teams, so that could be bad news. He's one of GSU's big playmakers.
Absolutely, and with special teams, we saw it last week with South Carolina State. They gave Georgia Southern a few freebies thanks to some special teams faux pas.
1st and 10 from the 31. Minute 2 to go on this third quarter. GSU has the lead. Both teams have 3 timeouts. Shaw getting a call from the sideline. He'll change the play. William and Mary showing far side blitz. He's reversed plays against this multiple times today. And he'll run opposite that look of blitz pressure. Not get a whole lot. As once again, it'll be the linebacker Evan Franks who had that big pick 6. Making the hit. That'll be a gain of about 3.
John, you take a look at over the last 25 games heading into today, William and Mary's defense has only allowed 150 yards plus on the ground 4 times over that span. Today, 334 overall, but 303 on the ground allowed to Georgia Southern.
Remember when GSU played South Carolina State last week? South Carolina State was the top rushing defense in the country at 70 yards a game. GSU blew them up and put 41 points on the board. But here William and Mary gets in the backfield and is able to handle the dive handoff looking for Robert Brown. The forward momentum, the forward progress still gets a gain of a couple of yards. So it's a third down at about 5. Solid job there, though, by the pressure of that William & Mary D-line, and that's going to bring the third quarter to a close. As the sun continues to set, clouds come in overhead. They are calling for snow in about an hour to 2 hours from now with chilly mid-30s temperatures. But here we go to the fourth quarter in the 2 seed. William & Mary trailing Georgia Southern 24-15. Georgia Southern in these expanded playoffs might have been one of the last teams into the tournament, Derek, and here they're looking at a second win on this tournament.
They have what I like to call a portable game plan. You can take a run game and a defense, and you can play that anywhere. Doesn't matter whether it's home or away, and that's what you're seeing here today for Georgia Southern, an ability to run the football. And they had, you take away that interception by Jay Beauchamp, they have controlled this entire football game. They have really done an outstanding job of winning the battle at the line of scrimmage, and with the exception of that play, they have not really made a lot of mistakes on either side of the football.
And William & Mary has been down some bodies. William & Mary's best offensive weapon has been Jonathan Grimes, the two-time All-CAA running back, 14 carries for 100 yards. He's even made a lot happen when going up the middle against those very immense defensive tackles, but the pass game has been widely ineffective. 8 of 21 for just 57 yards. And Derek, they did have that pass play over the top negated by a holding call that might have changed the flow of this game, but I've got to think that the loss of, yes, DJ Mangus to a degree, but the loss of Alex Gottlieb, that tight end safety valve for Mike Callahan, is really throwing a wrench in a system that has had its issues on the year.
And you'll see in games where quarterbacks are pressured a lot by the front four, look downfield, just check down, go to the tight end. He doesn't really have that ability to do that.
3rd and 5. Jay Beauchamp under center. Handoff Brown. First down. And he knocks over the William & Mary defender. The physicality of this Georgia Southern team has been especially impressive. That occasion, that's a strong safety, Ryan Thompson.
Yeah, these guys are running, and they're looking to run into guys. And they're not looking to run out of bounds there. They are looking to run over and through defenders at this point of the game. And this is where we talked about it becomes for William & Mary a challenge, not only physically, but mentally as well.
1st and 10 at the 44. Georgia Southern has had nearly 25 minutes time of possession to 20 and a half for William & Mary. And here's Wilcox on the pitch. Another first down into Tribe territory at the 44-yard line as this rushing offense is on its way, Derek, to perhaps a 400-yard day.
It's funny, heading into this game, you heard a lot of people assess the speed and the overall size of this team and their ability and how effective they were to run this triple option, but they look pretty good out there on the field today. And they are running with a physical presence and attitude right now that is really giving William & Mary a lot of trouble.
At the Tribe 44, Brown on the dive. Brown just keeps churning those legs. Contact from Jabril Mines, the outside linebacker. Sophomore out of Doswell, Virginia. There's a banged-up Eagle on the play. Slow to get up, but Georgia Southern's offense just continues to ground and pound. It almost feels like ultimate fighting out there right now.
Well, the problem you have right now if you're William & Mary is the fact that their backs right now are getting 5, 6, 7 yards downfield before any significant contact is being made on them. And that's a huge problem because, number one, that's going to eat up time, it eats up yardage, and it is going to give them first down.
Number 71,
and that thanks to the offensive line. And it's one of the old linemen banged up here is the longtime head coach of the Tribe. Jimmy Laycock paces the sidelines. It's Dorian Bird of Georgia Southern, the true freshman left tackle, getting his right leg area looked at. But what a job by him. Ryan Byrne, the left guard, Brandavius Mann, William Maxwell, Brett Moore, and even the backups. They've been rotating a lot of those second string linemen. That's almost an incorrect term with Georgia Southern, since it is so physical, it is so run heavy, especially on warmer days, but even on a chilly evening like this. As what do you know, it'll be Blake DiMartala that'll be taking the place of Bird at the left tackle spot, the sophomore to Fayetteville, Georgia, on a 2nd and 4. In motion, Wilcox, blitz shown, little pitch, Wilcox again. Wilcox burning down the sideline, shoved out of bounds. Another big play for J.J. Wilcox. Dante Cook, the middle linebacker, finally had the late shove, and Georgia Southern is pouring it on.
We talked about it before. They give you the power. They give you Brown running straight ahead. And then you get to the edge with Wilcox. That's really, when this thing is running at full tilt, extremely difficult to stop.
And Wilcox, a man who averages 27 yards of reception, over 5 yards a run, and he's increasing those numbers today. 1st and 10 at the 15. Up a couple of scores. Dive for Brown. And William and Mary able to greet him.
The handoff goes to Brown.
But man, this has been a dormant crowd for some time now. Mike Stover is in there on the hit. They have taken out the home field advantage of this William and Mary team, as this crowd hasn't had much reason to cheer on the day, and especially the second half.
No, absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right, John. This is a team that's played extremely well at home over the last season plus, and William and Mary is really not doing anything to give them a lot to cheer about here today.
Shaw on the keep. Takes a stiff hit, but some solid positive yardage there. That's going to be a gain of about 6.5 to 7. J-Bo Shaw is no stranger to that kind of contact.
That's an important concept about the triple option. You know, you need a quarterback who is not afraid of contact and who in a lot of cases will run downfield and will show the ability to want to run into defenders, because that you need to be a tough hombre to run this offense, and J-Bo Shaw is that.
That hit was from the strong safety, Brian Thompson. They call it a gain of 6. It's a 3rd and 3 from the 8. Motion, Shaw to keep, and Shaw to plunge ahead for another first down. Tripped up inside of the 5-yard line. Fresh set of downs for Georgia Southern, and it grates on you as the game goes on, and you can see the confidence building and the momentum behind this Georgia Southern offense.
And if you can listen to the crowd as this game wears on, the moans and groans coming from the crowd when you see gain of 5, gain of 6, gain of 10, gain of 11. It keeps just building upon building each block that Georgia Southern is really utilizing here to put forth a great run performance.
Wes Steinman in on that hit, is now on the sidelines being tended to, as Shaw on the keep has another touchdown. J-Bo Shaw's 3rd of the day, give him 16 on the year of Georgia Southern's 37 rushing touchdowns. And Georgia Southern, 4th quarter at the 2-seed William and Mary, now with a 30-15 lead, awaiting the point.
Simple play, simple fake inside. Shaw took it, ran up the middle, another touchdown, and now you're looking at potentially here 17 unanswered in the second half.
And Mora remains perfect on extra points. This game has been all about line of scrimmage, and Georgia Southern has dominated play on that line on both sides, and that is why GSU, with that point after 11:26 remaining, now has its current advantage, 31-15.
Coach Laycock was asked earlier this week, what do you liken this offense to? Anybody that you've seen throughout the course of the season, how similar is it to maybe a James Madison? And he said, well, it's not really that similar. 2 different styles of option, and they look like a team that I think they figured out what was going on in the first half, but as the second half wore on, it's tricky, because even if you figure it out, you have to deal with the physical aspect of standing up there and being able to make play after play after play after play, and they have not been able to do it here in the second half.
It's a 10-play, 69-yard drive that takes 4 minutes and 36 seconds, capped off by the J-Bo Shaw 3-yard plunge on the keeper. And there is Wes Steinman, the outside linebacker, getting that left arm and wrist area attended to. It's a banged-up and bruised William & Mary team as Georgia Southern has been intensely physical all day and has a commanding 31-15 advantage. At JMU, they run the pistol, not a zone read. In fact, they had no passing yards at all against William & Mary when they met head-to-head this year. But this triple option is something unto itself. And Georgia Southern, which made the triple option a force at this level back in the 80s, again in the late 90s, has the option back, and with it might be Georgia Southern. Drives a big return, but a flag comes out. A second one as he gets to the edge, out of bounds at around the 40, but I think we have 2 penalties here, Derek.
Again, in the area of holding or of blocking the back, it's anytime on special teams when you run left or right, and try to run it wide, it's very hard to get out of those plays without a holding call being found or an illegal block in the back. So this is going to push them back further. And again, now they're in a situation where, yes, they probably really need to abandon things.
Illegal block on the return team, number 31. A penalty will be declined. Holding, number 43 on the return team. That penalty is accepted 10 yards from the spot of the foul. First down.
And so indeed 2 calls, the block in the back and the holding. So the double dip with 11:16 to go on this third quarter. Some scores out of town. We have some finals. Delaware, the co-CAA champion, along with William & Mary, routed Lehigh 42-20. Appalachian State, champion of the SoCon, the league that Georgia Southern calls home, routing Western Illinois 42-14. That's a final. Wofford beat Jacksonville State 17-14. So Wofford awaits the winner of this game. And it could be a rematch of a couple of triple option teams. Tip ball. Dangerous knockdown at the line of scrimmage. Also a final, New Hampshire out of the CAA taking care of Bethune-Cookman 45-20, scored 21 unanswered in the third quarter. And we have some other games underway. First quarter, Villanova, Stephen F. Austin tied at 7. North Dakota State, Montana State tied at 7. That game's in the third quarter.
John, this is a point of the game where you have to be worried, obviously, if you're William & Mary, because they become very predictable at this point, down 2 scores.
And they have not been effective in the pass game. Callahan flushed, finds Moody with reluctance. Moody gets out of bounds. 11:05 to go here in the fourth quarter. 31-15, Georgia Southern trying to snap William & Mary's 11-game home win streak.
See, what happens now with this front four of Georgia Southern is that they know up 16, the threat of the run just is not really there anymore, and it's going to be all about the passing game.
Out of the shotgun, 3rd and 5, and indeed, the pressure comes on this pass. Finds his tight end over the middle and finds a first down. Nolan Carney only had 6 catches on the season entering today. He got a catch shortly after Alex Gottlieb left, apparently due to injury in the first half. And here, a big one to extend this drive.
And they're going to need him because the coverage is obviously going to pay a lot of attention to the receivers, and the tight end is going to have to help move the ball down the field. But as I was saying, with the front four, the big key here is the offensive line has to block and do a better job of blocking than what they've done thus far.
They motion Hill. A stunt. Callahan finds Moody right around the stick. That'll be a first down. Moody taken out of bounds by Rowe, the linebacker, and Carson Hill, the nickelback. That's another first down for the Tribe. 10:16 to go. William & Mary has all 3 timeouts, as does Georgia Southern, but you're not just playing against the clock here, Derek. You're also playing against that Georgia Southern offense, which makes the impetus to get down the field oh so quickly that much more intense.
Absolutely, because as we said, that's why the run game even more so is out of the mix here. If you're William & Mary, you can't run the football a lot for that fact.
4 down linemen on the rush. They stunt again. They find Hill. Hill trying to get sidelined, but he cannot. He's taken down by Josh Rowe. 9:42, tick, tick, tick. Georgia Southern in the FCS playoffs all time. A division best 39 wins against 10 losses. Georgia Southern has won nearly 80% of its playoff games. William & Mary, though no stranger to playoff success, has been to the semifinals twice since the 2004 season, including just a year ago. 2nd and 3, Callahan, pressure coming from the corner. Callahan trying to step up, and there's that man again, Tarico Agnew, the defensive lineman, able to bring him down for a loss of about a yard.
Johnny had half a sack coming into today. 2 in this game now.
And he never gave up. He was in the backfield and never gave up pursuit on Callahan. 3rd down and 5. Are we getting to, this has got to be 4-down territory, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
8:40 to go, clock rolling. The Coast CAA champs at home. Callahan. Hill right near the marker. And I believe this spot will have a first down. So Chase Hill, 3rd team All CAA performer, who was a quarterback in his high school days, brings that one in. And William & Mary. See Hill banged up. It's been a banged up team. So many players today. Still now, William & Mary linebacker Wes Steinman is just putting his glove back on after he had his left wrist taped up. So the measurement will be enough for a first. They lost the all-league tight end Gottlieb. They lost the wide receiver DJ Mangus. They've been without Paulus today, who did not dress. Callahan, who is playing, has been so banged up all year. 2 separated shoulders, a torn meniscus. Lost all of last year with a torn ACL. So with duct tape bound together, but a team with a ton of talent. Down a couple of scores at home. Callahan stepping up. Callahan over the line of scrimmage as he throws this one. It's caught. But it sure as heck looked like he was at least a stride ahead, and there is a flag down to the near side of the field right around the 50. That's an illegal forward pass.
Yeah, and that's, the situation. He's running for his life, and he's trying to get the ball downfield, and he didn't really see where he was.
Let's get the call from our referee, Vance Harris.
Illegal forward pass. Number 7 of the offense. 5 yards from the spot of the foul. First down.
And you feel so bad for a guy like Callahan, who has not had a great day, but he doesn't have all his weapons. He's one of the great feel-good stories on these playoffs. And right now, his team trailing with 8:05 to go in the 4th quarter.
13 of 27, 93 yards. And, you have to certainly tip your cap to the Georgia Southern defense, but you're right. He has not had the full complement of weapons as this game has worn on.
1st down and 15. The Tribe from its own 47 does have all 3 timeouts. They'll motion their running back in Grimes. Goes out as the receiver. Looking. Moody picked off. No. Drop ball by LaRon Scott, the 1st team All-SoCon DB. He has 6 picks on the year. Ties him for 4th in the conference, top 16 in the country, and that was nearly number 7.
And that ball right there, and Scott is a very good athlete there out in cornerback, just making the jump and the leap up in the air to grab the football. But when he came back down with it, it came loose. Lucky to get away with that one was Callahan.
He's one of the few Georgia Southern players to have championship success at the collegiate level. He won a junior college national championship at Butler Community College. Now he's trying to get Georgia Southern to a 3rd playoff game and the quarterfinals. Callahan, little slant, looking for Moody, taken down from behind. They want a flag. It comes late. Wow. The flag comes out. Carson Hill, I believe, had the tug, the nickel back from behind on Moody.
Extremely late.
I'm not sure that I've seen a flag come that late after the play. So let's see exactly what the call is.
Pass interference. Defense, number 24. Final foul. First down.
So the very late flag. Pass interference call, 7:46 to go. This game's not over yet, but time continues to run out on William & Mary. They need that big play.
And what makes this situation more difficult for William & Mary is the fact that not only do they have to score a touchdown, they have to get two just to make this still keep it at a situation where they can go for two and score again.
Yeah, they need 2 TDs and the 2 two-point conversions. Callahan on the edge, against the grain of his running back Grimes. And Rowe, the linebacker, makes the hit. Showing some ingenuity on the run, throwing against the grain of his own momentum and body. And a heck of a grab by the running back.
We've seen Callahan with the need to improvise throughout today, and once again in the pocket breaking down, has to make a throw on the run, and did so that time.
2nd down and 1. Grimes, the running back, wide, bottom portion of the screen. Mariner is the setback to the right of Callahan. Callahan looking left side, a slant for Moody, just off target. And that unfortunately has been a running theme as an Eagle is slow to get up. Callahan, who has been so effective on the year. In fact, his 64.6% completion percentage ranks 5th in program history entering the day, but now he's 13 of 28, and so many of them have been like that, just off the mark.
Looked like a good call, but you're right. That pass ahead of Moody, who was passed well ahead of where Moody was, and we saw that earlier on a throw down field to Chase Hill.
They go single back deep, and Mariner under center on a 3rd and 1. Callahan near side. Finds his target in Ryan Woolfolk. And finds a first down. So clock stops as they move the chains. With the ball now around the 25. It's a gain of about 6. Callahan from the gun. Rolling. Wants his man to go end zone. He'll toss there. Right between the hands of the DB.
I believe that was Scott again who had a shot at it.
He was looking for Marshall Dill, one of the reserve wide receivers. And that one, another chance for a pick. A 2nd down and 10. Coming up to the Tribe with 6:43 to go in this 4th quarter. From Zabel Stadium in Williamsburg, Virginia. 2nd round coverage of the FCS playoffs on NCAA.com. Callahan from shotgun. Georgia Southern brings the blitz. They pick it up. Callahan has time. Reluctantly, end zone! And yet again, there's that man, Laron Scott, who was just about 1.5 feet away from a pick in the end zone. I tell you what, the line has done a great job. That was a big blitz that they said. And solid job by the running back Mariner to pick up the blitz, but nobody's open.
They're leaving him with just enough time, but you're right. There's nobody to go to downfield. He has to force the ball.
And they've taken out some of the Tribe's biggest weapons by the way the score has been. You see Hobson on your screen, 38, the fullback. Hobson, a great blocker, first team All-CAA, but he's a weapon that is muted considerably considering time and score. And Callahan wants to call timeout, and that's a costly timeout. Down 16 points with 6.5 to go in the 4th.
And he's upset.
That's their first touchdown.
And again, it all goes back to the fact that when they get back to out there on defense, you're down right now, and you're going to need those timeouts to stop the clock.
And so, head coach Jimmy Laycock, who apprenticed under Marv Levy, under Lou Holtz. Those were his 2 head coaches. He was a quarterback here for William & Mary. His position coach, Derek, was Bobby Ross. It's a heck of a coaching staff the Tribe had back then.
Former head coach with the Detroit Lions, certainly well versed in the college game throughout his career as well. And yes, I mean, that's quite the learning tree, if you will, to gain a football education.
So he's been here now for 31 years, ranks 4th among Division I coaches. In years at his current school, Joe Paterno of Penn State leads the way at 45 years and his 208 wins, 6th best among active head coaches. But Jeff Monken of Georgia Southern, in his first year as a head coach, trying to follow in the footsteps of his mentor and good friend Paul Johnson and lead Georgia Southern to national prominence yet again as GSU is bidding for a 5th consecutive win. It's 9th on the year. It's 3rd and 10. The motion Woolfolk out of a split backfield. Low snap, Callahan handles, gives to Grimes, his running back, hit hard. Gets to around the 20. It's a gain of about 5. The nickelback Carson Hill on the hit.
You have to be very impressed with this Georgia Southern defense. They are giving the blows. They are not receiving them here today.
Georgia Southern has been physical on the line. It has been physical through all of its tackles. Even its quarterback has been physical today. 4th down. And if William & Mary has any hope, it needs to convert here. 6 minutes to go. Callahan tries to rub those hands together for warmth on a very chilly December Saturday. Big pressure, and there's Brent Russell for the sack. And that is the exclamation point on a day that has been dominated by his imposing force. While he has normally drawn double teams for his teammates to collect the tackles, it's Russell right up the gut. And that is probably the game.
He went through everybody. He went through the line, and he went through Grimes on the way to get Callahan. And you're right, that is a perhaps fitting summation of the performance by Georgia Southern's defense here today.
Brent Russell, who has a 4-year-old son that just celebrated his birthday, perhaps delivering a birthday present of sorts. Certainly not for these home fans as hundreds begin to file out of Zabel Stadium. The Georgia Southern offense is on the field with 5:49 to go at a 16-point lead. Shaw, handoff. They get a couple. The dive for Brown, the fullback. But there goes that clock. William & Mary only has 2 timeouts. At this point, you could probably have 7, Derek, and I'm not sure that's enough.
Yeah, it's because it's been hard for them to force 3 and outs of this offense. And this is not an offense built to go 3 and out, at least the way that they operate.
Georgia Southern has 403 yards of offense today. 372 have come on the ground on 50 plays. They're averaging 7 yards a play. And here they need 7 for a first on 2nd down. Shaw, late pitch to his fullback Brown. First down and then some. Brown out of bounds in William & Mary territory. Goes out of the 47-yard line. And it's a matter of time. Terrell Wells, the safety, rode him out of bounds.
You can hear some of the fans from Georgia Southern chanting overrated from the stands, and obviously they are going to start the chest puffing, if you will, on their side of the field, and rightfully so. They are 4:45 away from advancing in the playoffs and coming on the road here into William & Mary, one of the tougher places to play at this level, and picking up what would be a tremendous win for the program.
4.5 to go. Play clock at 3 as they snap. Shaw leaning, loses his balance, but it's a moot point. He still gains a couple of yards, and that's emblematic of the day, that even falling forward, as has happened multiple times, they gain positive yardage. The O-line gets low and gets pushed.
When we talk about the transition, from the spread to a triple option, that is a huge adjustment for the offensive line, let alone the skill players. And the O-line has been successful at it as the season has worn on. And you look at the numbers, obviously they're one of the top rushing teams in the country, and that's a credit to the job the line has done.
And it looks like it's going to be Wofford, Georgia Southern come the quarterfinals. As William & Mary gets some penetration here during the exchange on the dive to Brown. They get some contact, but still positive yardage with time ticking away.
By Hyde.
Georgia Southern.
Stover also there.
Chance to take on a SoCon brother. Those teams met back on October the 9th. Wofford was ranked 21st in the country, and it was a 2-point final. Georgia Southern lost at home 33-31. But two teams that run the option get a chance to see each other. 3rd and 6. They pitch to Wilcox. Another first down. 3 minutes, time rolling in a 16-point game. So it looks like we'll have two Southern Conference teams likely clashing in the quarterfinals on one side of the bracket. On the other side, it appears to be Delaware and New Hampshire, two CAA foes going head-to-head that did not see each other during the course of the regular season.
In the FCS playoffs.
Appalachian State is already through, having bested Western Illinois 42-14, while Villanova, defending national champs, trailing Stephen F. Austin 21-7. Whoa. It could be a tough day for the CAA. Delaware and New Hampshire through, but co-champion William & Mary struggling here at home. 2.5 to go, and Brown of the dive. More positive yardage. And more fans make their way toward the exits. And what still has been a great year for William & Mary.
A minute to go in the first quarter.
But it looks like the Tribe will likely end its year with 8 wins. And despite receiving the highest seed in the history of the program as a 2 seed, rather unceremoniously bow out with its first game in the second round.
Just never got into the flow today. I think on either side of the football, something went wrong at some stretch, and Georgia Southern was able to capitalize.
Pitch to Wilcox, another first. It takes 3 defenders as the Georgia Southern fans, a savvy group, applaud the effort of their teams. And what a fantastic job by Jeff Munkin and company.
First down.
Brian Stinney, the redshirt freshman at Troy, Virginia, had that hit under 2 minutes.
John, there's just not a lot of,
New Hampshire 45, Bethune-Cookman.
not a lot of tricks to what they're doing. They'll run with it. Brown is really running with power, and they'll pull in Wilcox to run, run pitch plays to the far side of the field or to the near side, depending on the situation. And there's not a lot that William & Mary has been able to do about it.
Shaw on the keep, tripped up, but more positive yardage.
Tripped up by Beerhalter.
It's Beerhalter, the lineman, able to get a piece of Shaw. Buck 12 to go. Georgia Southern is on its way to the quarterfinals. To a rematch with Wofford, to its 40th ever playoff win, most in FCS 1AA history.
Just seems like certain programs, when they get in the playoffs, John, it just starts to come together. They get some positive momentum going, and Georgia Southern, with that storied history, 6 national titles. This is a program that knows how to win, and it looks like they're on their way just towards that.
Victory formation, one of the rare losses of yardage today. It comes on a knee. 30 seconds. And Shaw hugging his teammates while William & Mary sideline, clearly emotional. So many men that will wear the uniform for a final time. It's a 1-game season come the playoffs, and its consequences are forever for some. One more knee, and that's going to do it. And the Georgia Southern Eagles can storm the field here at Zabel Stadium, as the power from the past perhaps is on its way back. Under the leadership of first-year head coach Jeff Munkin, they have bested the co-champion of the Premier League in FCS football for the last decade, taking care of William & Mary rather handily here in Williamsburg. Final score, Georgia Southern beating William & Mary 31-15.
They set the tone from the start. The big play to Brown really got them off and running in this game. They took an early lead. William & Mary battled back, but again, each time William & Mary had a chance offensively, the Georgia Southern defense came up with plays, held them on 3rd down when they needed to. And the most impressive part about this, William & Mary did not score a single point in the second half. Shut out in the second half, 17 unanswered points to finish out things in the second half for this Georgia Southern team. An impressive win.
And now a chance to celebrate with these several thousand fans that journeyed north from Statesboro, Georgia. They get to play in front of 20,000 fans at home at Alan E. Paulson Stadium. But here, the raucous thunder of Georgia Southern, the chant from the fans in the blue and white, and the program founded by the late Irk Russell, on its way to perhaps realizing some of that success again. The disciple of Paul Johnson, the legendary head coach in those parts of Southern Georgia, Jeff Monken, has his team believing and has his team through as they will go to the quarterfinal round of these FCS playoffs. Let's take a look at some of the final numbers. Georgia Southern, 59 rushes for 423 yards. 3 of 7 passing for 31 yards was Jabo Shaw. 66 plays, 454 yards, an average of 7 a play. William & Mary, by contrast, a similar number of plays run, only 6 less at 60, but only 214 yards of offense, Derek, less than half the production at 3.6 a play, 16 of 34 passing for 113 yards.
Credit to secondary, but also the defensive line of Georgia Southern. Hey, remember, William & Mary didn't score an offensive touchdown here today. The lone touchdown in this contest came on an interception return for a touchdown. So Georgia Southern came in here, and I think you made a great point early on. You talked about watching Georgia Southern when they were down warming up and how excited they were in pregame. That's the level of excitement and intensity they brought from the opening snap. I remember early on in this game, I brought up about the fact that they weren't doing a great job of tackling. Well, one of the reasons why was because they were looking for big hits. And as this game wore on, they started to connect on some of those big hits. And in turn, they really started to establish, I thought, a physical presence in this game. And it all starts at the line of scrimmage. The offensive and defensive lines today outplayed William & Mary.
And so a fantastic job for these Eagles. And remember, they did not run this offense until this year. When Jeff Monken came in, of course, they've run it historically, but so many of these individual players outside of the Georgia Tech transfer, Jabo Shaw, knew nothing of this offense. And I'm sure that some of the holdovers from the previous regime, even though they knew that was the history of the program they decided to attend, it had not been in recent years, and they might have been a little reluctant at first. But I don't think anybody on this team, for weeks now running, and especially when you cement this kind of a win against one of the other elite teams at the FCS level, could possibly question that return to the option. And it seems like for athletics director Sam Baker and company down there at Statesboro, it has proven to be a fantastic choice. And Jeff Monken, a great choice as a head coach.
No question about it. They didn't, throw away the season basically trying to rebuild and teach these guys the offense. And it's one of those things, whenever you come in with a new system, sure, there's going to be a learning curve and an adjustment period, but you don't want to use up an entire season going through this process. You would hope at some point that the players get it. And we saw a team today that obviously has that look to it. And again, it goes back to that victory over Appalachian State. That helped turn the tide of this season, and it's obviously propelled them and kind of changed the confidence level of this ball club, because from what we saw here today, this could very well be a tough out for anybody in this tournament.
And so Georgia Southern wins its 5th straight. It is now 9-4 on the year. We'll take on Wofford in the quarterfinals. Wofford bested Jacksonville State 17-14. While William & Mary's season is done, the co-CAA champ goes out in its first game, second round after a bye, finishing the year at 8-4. That'll do it for our coverage here on NCAA.com. Many thanks to our director today, James Churchill Lynch Jr., and our entire crew on camera and in the truck. For Derek Jones, this is John Sadak, thanking you for tuning in, and we'll have more on NCAA.com throughout these playoffs. Your final score from Zabel Stadium in Williamsburg, Virginia: Georgia Southern beats William & Mary 31-15. Have a great night, everybody.